Here's this from up here.
Joycelyn. Yeah. it's in it.
Yeah, Susan. Yeah, we are live.
There's a nice picture you find. Sorry, I should have everything.
Or also.
No.
I don't think she heard you.
Lisa, we're calling the meeting to order. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Michelle, here. Dr. Wilson. Rita.
Here.
Noel. Here. Brent.
Here.
Dr. Pandolfi. Lori.
Here.
Michael.
Here.
Bob.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Joycelyn. Here. Ron.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. New to this meeting, at the recommendation of one of our visitors, we will start off on a voluntary basis with a pledge of allegiance and invocation.
So you can join me if you wish. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're going to open with a word of prayer as well. And you can remain standing if you like. But since the time of the year that we're entering into is a really wonderful time of the year, I want to read out of Isaiah chapter 9, starting in verse 6. It says, "For us, to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." And so, Heavenly Father, we invite you into this gathering tonight. Lord, we're asking for wisdom. We ask you to pour it out liberally because we're in need of it. And so, Lord, we invite you into this space this evening. And we thank you for all of your loving kindness. We thank you for your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Michael. The first matter is the approval of the agenda. First, I want to mention, however, I believe we have mayors from 2 municipalities within the service area. Is that correct?
Yes.
Riverside, and do we have the mayor from Independence?
No, yeah, not yet. He is still coming.
Okay, with the consent of the board, I would like us to move the preliminary business to have our mayors address us, if that's acceptable with you.
Absolutely.
And so, well, I'm sorry, but we have some little busy work to get done.
Okay.
Thank you. So we had that adjustment to the agenda. And then is the mayor here? Okay. So with that adjustment to the agenda for our guests, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a question. One, the order of the agenda has building committee went first and the finance second. And there are some matters on finance. So I would like some latitude to get to that point, to bring in some finance matters that would probably otherwise normally be in the finance portion of the agenda.
Yes, if it's germane to building, absolutely.
Okay.
Any other comments or? Okay. Do you have a motion? Been moved, second.
Second.
Moved and second that we approve the agenda for today's meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Next matter is the consent agenda, which entails report of expenses. and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Appreciate a motion approving that.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
second, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Mayor, if you were to have a presentation in conjunction with the Mayor of Independence, would you prefer to wait until your other mayor comes? Or it's entirely,
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
okay, then, great, thank you. So as we have breaks from topic to topic, if we could get working, then that'd be great.
That would be perfect.
Okay, thank you. So next matter is visitors' comments. We have 7 speakers, 2 of whom are new, so we'd like to make sure that they have the chance to speak so we don't run out of time. We have Bridget McCandless, number 1, Mr. Dunn, Wayne Dunn.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And then we have Lori Green, Daniel Burden, Jordan Nolan, Mark Over, Meredith Aldebeck. So if Bridget, please.
Good evening. Glad to address all of you. Pardon me for my back being to the folks on this side. My name is Bridget McCandless. I'm a resident of Independence. I am the newest member of the City Council for the City of Independence. I am the at-large member. I also raised my family here in Independence and had the privilege of being part of the Prop L effort. When we went out and spoke to people about Prop L, we told them what that was going to do for our community. We gave them a building plan. We talked about increased services. We talked about additional hours. We talked about additional materials. The East Independence branch, room for children and teens, a community room, a place for library to continue to be part of the community. I know that you have had great deliberations around this broad table. Unfortunately, I will say that I was very disappointed to see the choice that you made in controversial to the choice that the voters made. 221,000 of those people.
Apologize. I don't know what's going on here.
That's okay. It helps make my point. That's, everybody's paying attention now. 96% of the precincts voted in favor of Prop L. What that means for me is that there will be, after your vote tonight, I hope, an East Independence branch. It is an area of the city that is growing. We actually have added 6,000 people to our community as of the last census. We have additional building of houses in that area. It is an area that really is ready and ripe for a library. We also have brought in some new employers, so we expect more people to be moving into our city, some of those with young children and families who will need the services of a library. I don't know if anybody could have anticipated how much we were going to need our libraries, but the pandemic brought that into sharp relief, both in people being able to access services there, for our family to be able to have online access to books. But it is a growing place for community meetings, for people seeking computer services, for online job applications. I give a nod to the library system for recreating itself as an ever more important aspect of a growing and thriving community. And we will happily welcome you to have an East Independence branch. Look forward to seeing it soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes, thank you. My name's Wayne Dunn. I live in Platte County, the Kansas City, Missouri part of Platte County. I'm here with my wife, Patricia, And we've been part of education systems for many, many years. She taught elementary school and middle school for 26 years. So she had a bigger burden than I did when I taught at a university. I believe that education is the single most important thing that we do as a country, as a state, and as a community. And the public library is an integral part of the education system. And if those of you that went to the opening of the facility last week, you heard the superintendent of the Park Hill School District say just that much better than I could say. And so I'm here to support actually Mayor Rose and the folks from Independence in trying to find funding. I was there last week at the Finance Committee meeting, and there's a little bit of shortfall there trying to find money for those facilities. I challenge you, I urge you to find the funding to meet those communities and the kind of library that Green Hills has. So the folks, you guys and the guys that came before you have built a tremendous library system with a lot of professional people in them. And so hope you continue to do that. Thank you much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. That's why I'm here.
Good evening. I'm Lori Green. I've stood before you before, and I'm a citizen of Clay County. I have been an avid user of libraries since I was a child, and I use the library as an adult and as an educator and as a parent. And I am here to share my concerns about the direction of Mid-Continent Public Libraries. First, I want to say that the staff of the Mid-Continent system is amazing. They provide readers assistance to adults and our youth. They assist educators find age-appropriate materials to supplement their curriculums. They teach customers to better use the library system, computers, their databases, and provide a safe place for children who have no one at home after school and for those who are housing insecure. They provide programming, incentives for reading, book groups, book displays, and greet customers with a smile on their face as they come to the door. One of my concerns in going forward with the recent budget cuts is that these people who are the front line of Mid-Continent Public Library will be spread too thin. They will be asked to cover positions that normally would be filled by additional employees, but due to budget cuts, hiring is postponed. Their hours may be cut to keep branches within their budgets, causing other employees to have to work harder, which leads to mistakes and poor employee morale. Another concern I have is pertaining to the completion of the building projects as promised by Prop L in 2016. And I actually went back and looked for the literature that you had and to see exactly what it says, so I wasn't misspeaking tonight. The citizens of Jackson, Clay, and Platte County were promised that by increasing the levy that Mid-Continent Public Library would use that money for the construction of 6 new library buildings and the renovation of 28 library buildings to serve the needs of modern library users in growing communities. So far, you've kept those promises. But now that you saw fit to cut the tax levy in September, some of the unfinished projects are in jeopardy. The Kansas City Star editorial board states in a December 11th publication, but a vote by 8 of the 12 trustees in September to reduce the library system's revenue by millions has put the new facilities promised for East Independence and Riverside at risk of not being built despite the promises to the voters. When you proposed the cut in the tax levy back in September, Mr. Cook promised to said that there was an excess of $1,310,000 in funds with the current levy. Mr. Laney, Ms. Burgo, and Mr. Schandenmeyer all raised concerns about cutting that levy and providing alternatives to how to use any excess of money should it come about. After the levy was cut, the Finance Committee comes back asking for reductions in budgets. I don't understand, Mr. Cook, if we had plenty of money, then I don't understand why we're looking at reductions in budgets. All I have to say concerning the budget is that you better make sure that you accept the guaranteed maximum price that is set to expire December 17th. If you must, take money out of the capital fund early and take a loss. That would be better than breaking a promise to the voters because you miscalculated or whatever reason you have for cutting back on size and expenditures. It would also be better than spending the extra thousands of dollars that would result in postponing any building project due to lack of funds on hand. It would be a disgrace for this board to renege on its promise to the public. My final concern that I would like to address is intellectual freedom. The values listed in board policy include intellectual freedom, inclusion, innovation, service, stewardship, and trust. The board policy says under the collection development, and I'm not sure if you've read this recently, but I was really impressed with the wording of it, that the library will offer a wide-ranging collection that represents a diversity of age, background, religion, ethnicity, culture, education, socioeconomic level, and lifestyle. The library will provide without bias a collection of print, non-print, and electronically assessed materials to meet the informational, educational, recreational, and cultural needs of all customers within our service area. The library's collection is fundamental to its ability to achieve its mission, vision, values, and goals. Selection of particular materials does not imply that the library agrees with or endorses the content of any in any form. The responsibility to choose to read and view or not read and view specific materials found in the library rests with the individual customer. No library staff or any other person, group, or organization should be allowed to restrict an individual's access to materials. Please trust the staff to fulfill this policy. We all have differences of opinion that are over different political, societal, and cultural ideas. Whether you agree with the thinking in the materials or not, it's the library's responsibility to provide material that is diverse so that every individual can have their own needs met. Your individual needs will be different than mine. Librarians make it their responsibility to provide materials that are both mirrors and doors to our customers. We want people to see themselves in our materials, but also to see the world. This builds empathy. Please respect the diversity of our communities instead of trying to squash it. Thank you for your time and your service to Mid-Continent Public Library.
What's the remaining time, Chief?
I'm sorry.
Do you have the remaining time for visitors?
Well, minus the 20 minutes.
Pardon?
20.
So it's for you to decide which to go next.
My name's Dan Purdom. I'm from Liberty, Missouri. I've spoken to you before. I think one of the things we don't do often enough is talk about what a wonderful thing our library is. I was at a candidates forum at Woodney before the elections, and it was fascinating because no matter where they were on the political spectrum, everybody said, what a magnificent place this is. What a wonderful resource to have in our community. This is beautiful. This is nice. If you had the privilege of being at the ribbon cutting of the book opening at the Green Hills this past week, you heard the superintendent of schools talk about how these libraries really show the vigor and the health of the communities and provide equity to everyone, to all the citizens. And so they're just magnificent. And the work that you've done to this point has been wonderful. You're kind of down to the short roads now. You don't have very many projects left on the capital side to complete. And the one that, and everybody, I think every community that you serve deserves that kind of hope and that kind of vision. My mother lived right down 24 Highway in Susquehanna in East Independence. She had a stroke this past year. Her world's gotten a little smaller, but the library is really important to her. And I would hope that you'll continue on. I think the money is there. I do believe that this could be funded. I do think you can continue to honor the promises made with Prop L, and that you can move forward on this process. And I hope that you vote to continue on tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Good to see you all. Mark Holt, Kansas City, Missouri, Platte County. I haven't really thought much about what I was going to say, but I thought of sailing. I know that's off track, but it seemed I've sailed in my youth, and we tack. We wouldn't go directly towards something. We would tack to get around the wind. And I just have this sense that this great ship, this wonderful jewel, is heading to the rocks. Okay, and I'd like to see you alter your course. Sir, you invoked Jesus in a prayer, and I'm a Jew, so Jesus and I, we're the same genetics, if you want to say that. And I just wonder,
Jerusalem.
say what?
I was just in Jerusalem.
Well, great. So you saw a lot of our, you saw a lot of varied. So the question that Christians often say is, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do in this case? Would Jesus allow this ship to hit the rocks? Especially when the voters said, go for it. We give you the finances to make this ship run. I love the library, always have. But when I was in Detroit as a kid, we had just a bookmobile, never went to the main library. This system has it so that people from all over can enter buildings and access all sorts of resources. Aren't the people of Independence and people of Riverside, don't they deserve what everybody else has gotten? Don't we want to keep the ship on course? How are you going to keep a new director? How long are we going to keep a new director if that director interviewed and had some understandings about where this ship was headed? And then all of a sudden, because a course was laid that maybe has us hitting the rocks, are you going to keep a director? I don't know. Please alter your course. Take into account what's going on and alter your course if it's not too late, as far as I know. And again, I ask you, for those of you who are Christians, what would Jesus do? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there one thing we can agree on? My name is Jim Oldebecken of Gladstone. Disagreements are inevitable between trustees, groups of trustees, trustees and the staff, trustees, and the citizens, staff and citizens. They happen. I hope there's one thing we can agree on. We can come back to under any and all circumstances. I have an idea. One thing we can agree on. I'm referring to something in the law. The Oath Act, May 5, 1789. The first bill of the US Congress, even before General Washington was inaugurated. It was very simple. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. we didn't invent that practice. We can go back to the Athenians 2,500 years ago. If you want to read something inspiring, read the Athenian oath, which citizens had to take to become, or people had to take to become a citizen. But let's go back further than that. Let's go back 4,000 years. Genesis 22. I myself have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars. But it's a two-way street. A false oath that was basically considered a profanation of God's name. Deuteronomy 6:13, Leviticus 19:12, Exodus 27. Well, let's just come back to our law. Constitution, the United States Constitution, Article 6, Clause 3. The senators and representatives mentioned before and the members of the several legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. So that's federally the Constitution and the first law of Congress. Well, let's bring it back to Missouri. State of Missouri Constitution, Article 7:11, Section 11, oath of office before taking office. All civil and military officers of this state shall take and subscribe an oath or affirmation to support the Constitution of the United States and of this state and to demean themselves faithfully in office. Is this not one thing we can agree on? I think you're answering yes. Let us agree on this. Let us not delay to get current if we are not. I requested public records from 3 counties and this library. There is one individual here who has taken an oath of office based on those records. And that's this gentleman, the president. And I thank you for that. I hope that before January 1st, if not tonight, we will get current on that requirement of law. It happens, we forget, but let's forget the past and move forward. Let's get it straight. If you are unwilling to support and defend the Constitution by your oath, I hope you will decide to no longer serve on this public enterprise. Thank you.
Now, our 2 mayors, please decide among yourselves who goes first.
She's been ready for a long
I've
time.
been because I've been excited to be here. Thank you, Honorable Chair and board members. My name is Kathy Rose, and I'm the mayor for the city of Riverside, and I have just completed it's a little over 16 years as the mayor. I am from a small town. You have Mayor Rowland here this evening from a large city. And we both stand in solidarity on what is important to our community, and we will fight for it every single day. I'm here this evening to to support the discussion and approval to move forward on fulfilling the last 2 projects in the Mid-Continent Plan. On your agenda is the building committee discussion. And as a regional advocate, and I truly have served in other roles other than the mayor of Riverside in a regional capacity to support Kansas City. And I'm just telling you, there's an energy, there's a vibe, and there's a whole lot of wonderful things happening in the Kansas City region that we should all be so proud of. And what the Mid-Continent Library has accomplished is absolutely bar none. I mean, it is absolutely top of the line for all of the citizens that live in this region. I believe the East Independence location will be a major enhancement to the library system. It was promised, it's deserved. On a future agenda, the Riverside facility will be discussed. Yes, your final project. This will create a new opportunity for all of you as the city of Riverside committed financial support to be able to have our facility built and ensure our citizens thrive and achieve their aspirations and goals. I know that you've been provided board packets with a lot of statistical data and support letters regarding Prop L and what the citizens spoke. And I'm not going to repeat that, but I want to stress that libraries contribute to our constituents' quality of life every day. They contribute to strong communities and welcoming environments, and it is what every mayor strives for. I'm excited to be here as this message is truly the fulfillment of promises made, promises kept. A message that speaks to my heart as mayor of my community. There have been many celebrations as new renovations and new facilities have been completed. And as responsible board members, I ask you to stay the course and finish these last two projects. Let's take this out with a bang and be proud of what you and this region has accomplished. I thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Honorable Chair, trustees, you have an important responsibility. You have to ask some very serious questions about how you spend the library's money. And I think it's important that you ask those questions. I think it's part of your responsibility to ask those questions. And as trustees, I respect and honor your responsibility to do that. I think it's an incredibly important role. I'm here to speak as Mayor of Independence, but also to speak as Roy Rowland, Joe's citizen too. As the Mayor of Independence, on December 5th, we approved the zoning of this project. So if there's any question about could you proceed from a zoning perspective, you are in fact approved. And we would love for you to complete this project here in Independence. Our council had a discussion about the importance of this library and the impact it'll have on our community. And to a person, they supported this project going forward. And I think that's important to have elected officials in this community speak loudly and say, we want this project done. Now I'm going to stop speaking as the mayor and speak about the importance of libraries. I stand before you today as a product of the library system. At the age of 35, I decided to make a career change. I didn't have the resources to do that. I wore the library out to learn what was necessary to make a career change. With 3 young kids, 1 on the way. What I learned from this library took me to all 50 states, to Guam, to Europe, to Canada, to Mexico. I would have never had those opportunities if it were not for your system giving someone like me with simply a dream to learn to change the course of his life. It is not simply a collection of books that we agree or disagree on. It is a system that allows people to pursue a dream. Please don't take that away from some 20-year-old or 30-year-old or 15-year-old now who live in this area and don't know what they want to do going forward, but they found an idea at the library. And it took them all over the world. When I was a child, I love libraries. And to see one not get built tears at my soul, especially when voters approved it. That tears at my soul. It tears the fabric of our society. And it's going to stop someone from living their dreams. When I was a child, I'd walk down the books library. And I would rub my hands across it and feel the various textures and sizes and smooth and fabric. And I just wish that I could touch those books and instantaneously get the knowledge. Doesn't happen that way. But with audiobooks, it's pretty remarkable. Audiobooks are the closest thing. And during the pandemic, I checked out 75 books from your library on this phone. One of the things I learned was from Ron Turnauer's book on George Washington. And he talked about, it was a quote from Lord Chesterfield. And Lord Chesterfield said, "A man would rather have his story heard than his wish granted." Today, I ask you to grant the voters' wish and complete this project. I know you have a difficult responsibility. I admire your questioning things. I think that's important. But it's also when people are here and they're saying complete this task, I urge you to do that. I realize you have a difficult task as trustees. There's all kinds of opinions, but please complete this task. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Judge. The mayor's back to the agenda, the awards and recognition. The next matter of financial reports.
Yes. On the screen, that's the total amount of tax revenue we have received by the end of November. It's over $1.8 million, which is about $200,000 more than last year. We have just started to receive new tax revenue from the counties. Total amount of operating revenue is close to $2.7 million, $700,000 more than last year. Also, during the month, we received the first half payment of A&E tax and state aid to public libraries for a total amount of $330,000, which is more than what we budgeted. The second half of the payment will come in June 2023. Next page is the operating expenditures. For payroll and benefits, that's over $13.6 million, 40% of the budget. Library materials is over $5.6 million, close to 50% of the budget. And all other operational accounts is close to $4 million, close to 37% of the budget. Also, the gas fee requires us to disclose the impact of tax abatement to the taxing district. Each year, we receive a letter from the city of Kansas City to report the tax abatement in the library district. This year, we received a letter indicating a total amount of $1.5 million being abated in the city of Kansas City.
A year ago, that was close to $1.4 million. Next page. is
Before you- Can I just ask a question on that page? Can we go back to that page? Could you just explain to me how the payroll and benefits is 40% and the library materials is 49?
Okay.
Yeah, is this separate, right?
Yes. Part of the library materials in the database, we pay the annual subscription fee for database at the beginning of the fiscal year, which is about close to $3 million.
Okay.
So that's why it's higher, during the first half of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Next page is the debt service fund. No change in November. So far, we made one payment for interest only, $1.4 million. March 2023, we will make a second payment for the debt. Next page is the capital project fund. We just spent $165 for the storage center. This should be the last year to finish up the storage center. For New Riverside, so far we spent about $709,000, including the purchase of the land for $650,000. All other capital plans, we spent close to $3.6 million. Next page is the health insurance fund. Total amount of contributions from the employee and employers is over $1.5 million. Fixed costs and the other fees is about $500,000. Medical claims is over $1 million. $7,500. Twice a year, we calculate the required minimum fund balance. Once in December, and a second time will be in June 2023. And the minimum fund balance required is a little over $1 million. And the maximum allowed is $1.7 million. At the end of November, the fund reserve is $1.3 million, right in the middle of those two numbers. Also, in your board agenda, from page 27 to page 33, there was a list of all payments being made in November. That's my report for the month.
Any questions, Paul? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to unfinished business or old business committee reports, building committee.
I'm going to stand out here. Okay. I'm mindful that the president needs to leave at 6:30 for an important commitment. And so I want to go through this rather quickly, but I want to go through rather methodically because I think it's important that as many people here vote on this. So I'm somebody that sometimes has to write in order to think. And so forgive me if I read what it is that I've written. I'm Brent Schonemeyer. I've been chair of the building committee for some time, and an earlier period of time I was co-chaired with Michael Lazia. So I sought this delay to have this special meeting because I thought there was important to get additional information. Last time they have the building, the price come in 3 hours before we met and before we voted on it all. It seemed precipitous. It seemed unnecessary. So thanks for taking time out of your holiday to come down here and gather for this additional conversation. I think it's helpful to slow down. It's helpful to gather additional information. I think it's helpful in giving us the best opportunity to make an informed decision with the best information that could be compiled and provided prior to this evening. We're coming to the end of an ambitious building program that touched every library in the library district. It was only possible because in November 2016, voters approved Proposition L. Some of that background is in the document that I shared with you. This document, and then I asked that it be mailed out to you because I think sometimes I have to have a paper copy in front of me in order to see it and read it. So as a quick reminder, we wouldn't be here without the passage of Proposition L. We would be at our homes doing other things this evening. A quick reminder, it took a lot to get Proposition MCPL untracked and then going. So let me quickly summarize. After the vote came in, we interviewed and hired architects, SAP Design in 2017. We interviewed and hired a construction manager at risk, J.E. Dunn, in 2017. We updated a facilities management report in 2017. We decided to issue certificates of participation. I refer to them bonds, but they're certificates of participation to pay for the program in 2018 because a pay-as-you-go approach would take over 20 years to complete the entire program. Actual construction began in June 2018 with the Community Hall at Midwest Genealogy Center. We organized all these projects into work packages, grouping them where similar, renovation versus new construction, and we got underway. We're now down to the final two projects, East Independence, officially work package number 13, and Riverside, work package number 16. And all this has happened over the past 6 years. And during that period of time, 2016 to 2022, there have been 20 different trustees who sat in this room and made decisions at various points along the way. We're the 12 here that have the responsibility to make that decision design. As a point of information for trustees, Cheryl McGinnis at Platte County, Jane Reinhardt from Clay County, John Laney and Steve Rowling from Jackson County had letters about this project urging passage of East Independence. Some of these early projects involve significant changes in scope. Some examples are at the Redbird branch, we decided not to renovate, but we decided to go in the vacant bowling alley and locate it there. And so that incurred additional cost. We also decided that the existing 1988 Grandview branch needed additional square footage and a remarkable transformation of that sort of building. We added an elevator at Blue Ridge, opening up an already constructed space at the lower level for public use. In a project currently under construction, we decided to build a split level new building on the current North Oak. I look at Michelle, North Oak property rather than relocating because the money we saved on land acquisition could be put into the building. Throughout, we tried to keep a running total of funds expended against a total project fund of 114 million. We saved money on some projects, cost came in the guaranteed maximum price, and we did really well on land acquisition. In some instances, we stayed where we were, avoiding the cost of land purchase. In others, we swapped property, Boardwalk in Smithville for Green Hills, or the old Red Bridge for East Independence. We sold old libraries, Liberty, and we got donations for desired properties, or we negotiated favorable prices, as in the case of Green Valley, at a cost less than what we budget. In many cases, these savings were used to justify board-approved expansion in project scopes. We were 2 solid years into our building program, making substantial progress, and then we experienced something truly frightening and unimaginable. COVID-19, a world pandemic that literally killed millions and disturbed our economy in hard to predict ways. I recently went back and reviewed the 162-page official statement for certificate of participation. Yeah, I'm that kind of guy. And the source of the funding for the bulk of our $114 million in our capital project. I did a word search, COVID-19, nothing came up. I typed in pandemic, nothing came up. I typed in supply chain, nothing came up. I thought, well, let me try supply. Well, there's a supply coordinator in the table of organization in the document. So supply came up, but it was a staff position at the library, nothing to do with the pandemic. I typed in construction and a number of references came up because this was public debt intended for buildings. And then on page 11 was a reference under headings, other factors. And it says future economic conditions. I'm just going to read this. Adverse economic conditions or changes in demographics in the district, including increased unemployment and inability to control expenses in the period of inflation, could adversely impact the district's financial condition. Now, folks, this is standard boilerplate language inserted in every bond document. I would refer to our counselor over here. You ask any bond attorney, you check it with any city manager, you check with any school superintendent. In 2018, our bond counsel was not so prescient that they knew that a world pandemic was headed our way and what effect it would have on what it is that we're trying to do and how it triggered an unabated inflationary pressures. We continued our building program, trying to manage the situation to the best of our collective ability as a board, as staff, as architects and contractors. In some cases, available materials, structural steel comes to mind, were purchased in advance and stored until needed. But overwhelming macroeconomic factors have caught up with us. We are experiencing a 40-year historic high inflation. Truly, no kidding. 40 years ago, I was 29 years old. honest fact. Not the proverbial. I was 29 years old and I was unmarried and my spouse surprised me here and is here tonight. And so I thank her for being here. I was living in an apartment and among my most valuable possessions was an Apple IIc personal computer, a yellow Datsun, and my library card. Our earlier projects, surprisingly in retrospect, avoided the cost inflation. Data provided by J.E. Dunn, I think Jim Coulter is online, shows quarterly Kansas City construction costs going all the way back to 2006. This is a major national construction firms whose data is really sound and really reliable. Here's the annual numbers for the years our projects were underway. In 2018, the construction inflation was 5.14%. In 2019, it was 2.71. In 2020, it was 1.18. And then in 2021, it was 13.02%. In 2022, for just the first 3 quarters of the month, 9.48%. So the document I prepared, page 16, shows Dunn's projections for 2023, 2024, and 2025. That's 8%, 9%, and 6% respectively for the next 3 calendar years. In the face of this inflation, we had to make some adjustments. We reduced the size of Grain Valley, currently under construction, by 22,500 square feet from 15,000 square feet down to 12,500 square feet. And we reduced East Independent, the project before us tonight, from the original budget of 20,000 square feet down to 12,500 square feet. The impact of inflation, particularly on these last few projects involved making new construction, is clearly evident. The Grain Valley project is a way to clearly illustrate this. The initial budget for Grain Valley was $5 million for a 15,000 square foot building. Our guaranteed maximum price for the 12,500 square foot building is 6.6. So here's the math. We will pay 33% more for a building that is 17% smaller. That's the impact that inflation has had on what it is we have going. Rather than being disappointed, I'm thrilled that it wasn't more. So the 14 million we originally budgeted for a building program will not be sufficient. That is clear to me. It should be declared to everybody else. And there is unhappiness that we were not clued into the reality of these facts sooner. So tonight, if there's a desire to blame somebody, blame me. I'm capable. I can do my homework. I can raise my voice. I can ask tough and challenging questions. When voters approved Proposition L, the library produced fact sheets for each of the branches. I think one of our speakers brought them up. So you can name a branch and I could pull it up and I could show you what it is that we did. In the bottom, it said pay for Mid-Continent Public Library, Trent Skaggs Sport Precedent. One of my trustees looked at the document and they thought I actually created one for independence. No, this was what voters were told. This is when you walked into the branch, this is what it is. If you saw our staff were wearing buttons that said, ask me about Proposition L. This is what they were trying to tell people that they were going to get. At our November meeting, trustees had important questions, which the document I prepared intend to answer. What were voters promised? They were promised a new East Independence branch, and there was a commitment made to voters. Is there a community need? The answer is yes. It was true in 2016 and even more so today, based on updated data that is well documented and a really helpful letter from the City of Independence. Some people thought I wrote that letter. I did not, but I want to publicly thank whoever did. Can we confirm the anticipated construction cost escalations in the projects that were delayed? Yes, it will cost more, $500,000 or more each year. Construction is delayed. The data is on page 6. The data is on page 16. Would construction of a new library divert traffic from adjacent libraries? The experience of Whitney suggests not. That's on pages 12 and 13. Other questions have come up from fellow trustees since I prepared the background document. Ask, couldn't we raise funds philanthropically for East Independence? My answer is that it would be difficult at best. It took us 4 years to raise $3 million for the historic Woodneath home. That's a special project. Preservation of a historic home on the National Register of Historic Places that has support from significant guests and a major matching federal grant. East Independence is an entirely different situation. It would be nearly impossible to raise more than double the cost of the Woodneath project. And frankly, what we would raise in any 1 year be matched or outstripped by the impact of cost inflation on the entire project. And honestly, a funder would say, well, why should I fund that project when voters were told that the Proposition L would pay for it all? I was also asked, couldn't we put on hold our current bids to provide more time to answer outstanding questions that we might have? The answer is no. The bids we have expire this Saturday. We could put the architectural plans on the shelf. We've already spent $200,000 on design, but they could be put there and brought back out, but the bid will not be extended. We see a single number in the guaranteed maximum price, but the bid is a compilation of over 20 separate vendors and lots of building trades, and it's all brought together in one place. If we delay, we will rebid and our costs will be higher. This is more than the commodity prices. If you look on page 17, major projects are coming online and labor available is ready to start our project will not take a sabbatical until we are ready. And I had my own question, which I thought was important to have our staff address for the benefit of us all. If we built East Independence, are there MCL, Mid-Continent Public Library funds, among our total resources sufficient to operate the new library branch and meet other staff identified library needs? That question is addressed in the 3-page memo that all of us received on Friday. It addresses the operational costs of East Independence, needed staff salary increases, and also known other capital project needs, including a new security system, replacing self-checkout machines, and getting a building maintenance fund established. The staff had recommended is one approach. It may not be the only approach, nor is it something that we have to figure out tonight in the room in our special meeting. It is important for us to improve the East Independence project tonight. We told voters we will do it. That's an indisputable fact. We have a bid in hand. The labor will result in higher costs. That's an indisputable fact. There's a reasonable approach that will allow us to operate East Independence and meet our other needs. That's a problem to be solved. We are 12 individuals with an independent responsibility to make a clear choice to vote the project up or down. This past week, I saw this quote in a review of a new book. Got it from my local library about data geeks. We do not need to have the best possible answer, only a reasonable answer. What I'm suggesting to you is a reasonable approach to meet everything that we've talked about and everything that we promised to the voters. If you have doubts and not persuaded or have a different point of view, please vote no. Please vote no. But no single board member has a veto over on whether we proceed or not. I want to thank our speakers, particularly our public officials who took time to join us, for the comments and encouragement to complete our building program. We have a new library director coming next month. It would be nice to proceed with these unfinished projects and have them in hand when he arrives. If in doubt, I will be voting yes for East Independence. I look forward to the Riverside proposal, which will be before the board in February 2023. And I support that project also. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Rand. Any other discussion on this matter?
A motion on the table.
Yeah, I got you.
I have comments that I want to make.
Go ahead, you go first.
Mine are going to take a while.
I'll wait.
Okay. I want to give some background on just some data that has come about in the last 60 days and give some history on the financial side since I came on the board in February. I do want to pass around the schedule. 1, 2, 3. Have my own copy. And the same thing here. No, I have my own.
Okay.
And then there is a schedule on funding. If you recall from the October, I won't go through the details. If you recall from the October board meeting, we made a resolution, passed a resolution requesting a full analysis, cost analysis on the funding as well as the spending that have been incurred to date, as well as what it takes to finish the project. And so what you have in front of you is what I received last Friday on the 9th. It is still not in the form that the board requested as for the resolution in October. The funding shows 120 million. That number needs to be corrected. The you'll look up in the detail, you'll see that there's interest from the Texas, I think it's in Texas, not Texas, of $3,740,000. That is interest income from the COP proceeds. That's actually should be a finance cost offset. That's not funding that should be considered as part of the funds available for construction. So if you take that out, that 120 million you have in your schedule becomes 160,861,000+. If you look at the landscape schedule, these are on board docs. Is Cody running things?
Brian.
Brian, so I think under 6.9, there should be two PDFs. Pause here till he gets them up.
Yeah. I'm looking, go ahead, Gordon, sorry.
Okay, so there's two PDFs. We'll get those up so you can see the numbers I'm talking about. There is a schedule that looks like this. It's the landscape one I gave you showing all the projects to date. You'll notice in the middle of the page, the total including the estimate to complete is right short of $130 million. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back and give you some of the history, but at the finance meeting, there you go. So at the finance, it's a lot of detail, you can't read it. But if you look in the middle section right there, you'll see the total coming down to 103 that has been expended to date and 26.7 million that is yet to be incurred, assuming the numbers that are on here. Okay, and one of the things we were supposed to get was a comparison to the original budget. That has not been completed on here, so I can't tell you where that is. Okay. But as of in the meeting last Thursday with the Finance Committee, we had a different form of this. And we, after a number of changes, exchanges, and additions and deletions, it was concluded that the funding deficit was $8 million. That's the number that's in the memo that Susan distributed last Friday as well. If you look at this schedule, and take out again, it takes us, the funding deficit is actually $13.1 million. So the spending is $13.1 million over the available proceeds. And I think, again, that would be $16 million over the original plan, or almost $17 million. The original plan was $113.2 million. I apologize for all the numbers. But those are the numbers. Okay, so we're $17 million over the budget.
So Gordon, could you clarify the discrepancy a little bit?
I wish I could tell you why, but I don't have the data. And this is what the board, this is what the Finance Committee has been requesting. I'll just give you the detail. I have requested this data starting back in March. Okay. Both this and maintenance reserves. So as you recall, I came back on the board in late January, and my first meeting, finance meeting, was the February board meeting. So the first communication I had was that Jake is starting to refine and create a long-range maintenance plan. That's one of the things we asked for. The budget that I received on April 28th, this is all the detail. The project budget in there was $114.7 million. The Riverside number in that budget was $3.5 million. On May 2nd, this is after a number of exchanges with the former CEO. I made it clear that we needed to lay out the details of the capital plan in comparisons to where we stood, what the estimated costs were. We needed to know what the components of the reserves for the future maintenance were. And that was the information the board needed in order to make some good decisions. As I said, absent this, it risks kicking the can on funding future repairs. The response, and I won't read the entire paragraph, with regard to repairs was the project is $113 million. That's where it stands. And as to future maintenance, there is very little planned or deferred maintenance for the next several years. That was May 2nd. As you probably all remember, I did a sunshine request on May 6th. The result of that was posted up on, or one of the documents that was posted up on board docs in response to that was the detail for the spending. And this is what I got, a few lines, and I got 80 pages of detail. Nothing compiled. On May 19th, I made further inquiries, and one of the board members responded to the former CEO, why aren't you just meeting with Gordon like you requested? Brent, you and I had a phone call on May 23rd. We went through this, and again, I'm not just stating facts or what we talked about. So at that point, we had right short of 25 million in the capital fund. We penciled numbers of $18 million for each of the three branches, $6 million each, another $4 million for soft costs and all the other expenses. And then we were going to get 1.35 million from Riverside. That and a few of the miscellaneous capital fund items would have left us a balance of 2.5. So at that point, the indication was that we had adequate funding. Then shortly thereafter,
That was in when? Sorry, excuse me, that was in May.
that was May 23rd. Okay. Then on May 29th, I think it was either the Sunday or Monday or Memorial Day weekend, I sat down and prepared a schedule to try and give an example of what the request should look like. So that's what it is. I then took the dashboard, which the board had been presented on numerous occasions. These are all posted on board docs. Okay. The total on this schedule for the JE Dunn current, the 2018 JE Dunn is 84.5 million. The JE Dunn current is 84.5 million. The problem is that schedule doesn't foot. It's off by $6,793,000. Okay. I pointed this out in an email and sent that email to Brent. You were the recipient, but it went to the former CEO. Nothing happened. And as you responded, the staff has this information and should respond. There was no response from staff. Then on the June Finance Committee meeting, I again made a point of these issues. I talked about the budget book, which appears to present the 2017 budget. Here we are in 2022, and we're still presenting data that's 5 years old. I noted that the component costs were different between the dashboard and the budget book. The dashboard has one format of the component costs. The budget book has another. It's like we're not coordinating. I said after 5 years, it is recommended that we do a comparison of the budget plus the estimated completion costs, and that this matter be viewed with urgency. On July 22nd, I had a phone call with Susan. I sent Susan that same worksheet and details. This is a PDF that the building committee presented in May. It says MCPL has put aside enough funds to meet commitments, and the capital plan is promised through Prop L. As planned in the second bullet point is as planned in 2023, MCPL will start to accumulate funds in this account to create resources to start a maintenance cycle starting in 2028. In October, at the board meeting, we were presented a schedule that showed $13 million of maintenance items for the next 5 years. So contrast that with, we don't have any major maintenance issues and starting until 2028, and already have 13 million on the list here. I went back and I didn't fly spec it, but it appeared that about half of this $13 million was in the original 2017 plan. So monies that were originally dedicated for things that are identified in this book that SBH put together didn't happen. Okay, didn't happen, and the funds got diverted to other projects. Then in October, we continued to request an update on the Prop L or on the Prop L accounting. In October, we got the same schedule, 3 lines and 91 pages of detail in a PDF format. Then Susan's memo came out on Friday. There are a number of things in here. And I went back against the levy calculation, which you all had. We went through that in September. Specifically, it talks about the expenses for East Independence. Those are in the budget. Those are in the levy projection. The capital maintenance has $3.5 million built in. Your $1 million here that you noted. So that number was already covered. The HVAC system that is headquarters at 550. That was in the original 2017 capital plan. As I said, those funds were diverted elsewhere. The building security and entry software system upgrade of $650,000. My understanding is that the system works. It's just older. And again, if that was outdated 5 years ago, then that should have been in the original capital plan. The last item on here is the reading rocket. The reading rocket has already been at least 50% paid for, and the last second half payment is due upon delivery, and that's already in the budget. So from an operating standpoint, all the things that are in Susan's memo are already in the levy projection, okay? And in the levy projection, one of the items noted was we'll need $58 million in expenses for the fiscal 24 year. And in here is 58.1 million. In the 25 fiscal year is 59.8 million. So everything that everything that's, I'm gonna say staff talked about in this memo is covered except for the capital costs, okay? And the capital costs, we were told that we were on budget and we had adequate funds, and all of a sudden we're $13 million overspent. Okay,
Sorry.
I can talk about a whole bunch more, okay? But go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, but the other day in the meeting, we were 8.5 million and now we're 13.
Yes. Yep. And 13, as I told you, comes about, if you look at the schedules that I just handed out, there's 120. There's 120 million on the funding, but you have to take out the Texas interest, because that's not a funding source. And and the current schedule of the costs is right short of $130 million. So we're 13 million short. Or I should say we're 13 million over budget on the spending plan. We actually have more we have apparently more revenue. And again, I don't have the details on all the revenue, but that's what it is. So I've talked about that. Brian, can you go pull up the Excel worksheet with the, I think it's called 10-year stats?
Yeah, let me find that here real quick. Yep, I see that. Give me 1 second.
While he's doing this, I interject.
Brian.
Sure.
It's on 6.9, Brian.
Yep, I've got it. Give me 1 second to save it here and open it up.
Yeah, I just want to interject. Do you mind?
Okay, you get the floor, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just want to interject something.
Just make it short, please, because I want to
Yeah,
get
I
done,
don't
and then
wanna-
we can go back to discussion.
Definitely.
Okay?
I just don't want to lose, it's about what you're talking about, which is, I think that we all need to understand, especially those of us like last year who were on the building committee, and at every meeting, we are told that we're shown that we are right on track. We have enough money for East Independence, Riverside. So that is, I guess, the concern is like now, I mean, if we would have heard this before, even when we were dealing with the budget, that would have made a good, that would have made sense. So I just don't,
Yes.
I don't understand. Like you're saying now we're $13 million short. Yet when we were on the building committee at every meeting, we are being told
Okay,
everything's.
okay, we'll get to that. I think that'll be, so this is some detail that I asked Jim to pull together while his assistant was on some sort of leave. And Brian, if you will scroll to the right side on the circulation, that is a drop-down menu. So if you notice the circulation just before you do anything, this is a 10-year history from 2013 forward. You'll see the circulation is flat. The middle section is internet access that has trended down. You can see the COVID years effect. It's starting to come back up. And then the door count is the bottom chart. And you can see how that is trending down. and the impact of COVID again, but there's a note on there that says they changed the technology in 2017. So how much the previous years are overstated, I don't know, Jim, is it maybe 10%, something like that? So you can drop those numbers by, I'm just going to say 10%, but it's still a declining trend. Okay, scroll back up to the top on that same column section and click on the drop-down menu for total circulation. And you should, right above there, there should be one for virtual library. You have to make sure you click on the virtual library. It should be, where's the battery go? Oh, you know what? You have to click enable the worksheet. Somehow you don't have it enabled.
But yeah, let me close it here real quick and I will pop it back open.
Okay. All I'm going to show you is that the trend over the last 10 years has been a steady, just a steady uptick in the virtual library. And this is, I think the mayor noted, if you're checking out books on your phone, I think people are starting to check out books online. So the question becomes, at least from my point of view, is, what is the physical structure? What does the physical structure look like now versus 10 years ago when you didn't have the same electronic tools? So you can see in 2013, it's an upward trend. That's what's happening. That's probably going to become, maybe in the next year or two, at least half the circulation. All right, so if you scroll back over to the left, and I go back and change that to total circulation, because some of the other percentages are keyed off that total number. Okay, so if you go back and scroll to the left, I'm just going to give you, this is things that you can do, but if you go to the top left drop-down menu, I don't know what's there. I can't see it, but why don't you click on Blue Springs North? Okay, this is, again, you can see the trend in circulation. In the middle side, the middle chart is internet access. And if you scroll to the bottom, Brian, if you roll it down, you'll see what's happened with door counts. Blue Springs South, go back up and click on that. Again, when I'm gonna, that really looks like the same trend. And I want you to go back up and click on Colburn Road, which is on the south side of this the metro. So you can see, somewhat of a declining trend, but it's popped back up here post-COVID. So I don't know what's happening in Colburn Road, but those things tell me a story, okay? They do tell me a story. So what's happening, I guess the issue that I see here is that we have some changing dynamics. Beyond the cost issues, there are some dynamics changing. And I think that gets into, as I've talked about, what the physical plant looks like, because once you place a physical plant in operation, you have the operating costs and you have the future maintenance costs. And it's really a function of, what is the long-term cost of ownership? So one of the issues and concerns is, while we're focused on a $520,000 inflation adjustment or contractor's adjustment, that is 1.3% of what our 20-year cost of running East Independence is. Okay, so it comes back to, with the changing dynamics of the population there, the proximity of the other branches. And again, I'm not suggesting we not build. I'm asking, how are we controlling costs? Because I have costs. I'm $17 million over budget, and we don't have the money at this point, without depleting the general fund balance, to finish everything. So let me give you an example of what's happened. Again, the with Riverside, let me just use the numbers there. On May 28th, Riverside, or April 28th, Riverside was 3.5 million. In the June 20th schedule sent to the board on the evening prior to the June 21st board meeting, the memo showed 4.5 million. The proposed budget and the final approved budget have 3.5 million. Brent, as you recall, we used a nice round number of 6 million just because we had to get something done. I don't think that's that number I want to use, but that's the discussion we had. The all-in cost as per the schedule that Jake handed out for Riverside is now 8.35 million. The Riverside is down the road, but the question becomes on some of this is, who's managing the costs? And what are, in my view, what are architects doing? I mean, they gave us this book. Okay? They told us the plan should be $113 million. We're 90% done. And we just find out last week that we're not, we thought we were 8 million short. We're really 13 million short. Okay. And we're sitting here suggesting we have to make a decision because some costs will go up. So my question is, do we need our architects to go back and re-engineer the plan and have our contractor go back and re-engineer the bids, because maybe there's room in there and we just haven't, I don't know how this thing works, but when I'm 17 million over budget, I'm going to ask questions. The same thing happened with, again, the dashboard has been presented. I already gave the numbers. I pointed out the $7 million, what I'll call the $7 million error. Nothing ever happened to that. The capital fund balance was originally 6 million back in April and May. It went to 3.7 million at the June 21st meeting. It was 3.3 million in the budget book. We're now in a deficit situation. So what do we do? And when I'm $17 million over budget and I have a funding issue, I tend to stop and take a breath and reassess what's going on. And that's my suggestion here, okay, is that we put a hold on this, okay? I really think that the 520 can be dealt with both JE done. I don't like having a gun held to my head. I've negotiated contracts. I don't see why this one can't be renegotiated or negotiated to get a better result. I suggest we call either a special board meeting, or we bring the architect and JE done in for the January meeting, and we dedicate most of the discussion to how we got here and how things are being managed and why we're $17 million over budget. Again, Riverside, I have to take out Riverside on that because Riverside was about, I think, 700,000 or 800,000 in the original plan. Okay, so that changed. Actually changed earlier this year. Okay, I think our architects need to look at what's going on, and I would ask the same question about Green Valley. Is there something they're doing there that we, at this point, because I don't know where the construction is, but is there some savings that can be made there? We can take the route. We've already approved the hiring of an expert through an RFQ. I don't have the RFQ that was approved in September. There's no draft of the RFQ in our hands at this point. The board has statutory authority to hire an expert. That's my recommendation, is we find somebody just to help us corral this situation, and we table the RFQ. As part of the 23-24 budget cycle, I suggest we get a projection that is not of the format here, that is about 20 lines. We get something that is robust and detailed and comprehensive in terms of the revenue and cost analysis. So we know what it costs us to run a branch. We know what it costs us to staff branches. We know where our projected replacement costs are, and we can make decisions we can make decisions with better accuracy. Projections are never perfect, but they are a better tool than adding 3% to revenues and 2% to expenses every year. That's where we need to go. And that's the direction I have been trying to get us to go into. That is not an easy task to complete, and it takes time and it takes some cycles. So that's where we are. As I understand, Prop L was originally a 10-year plan. Is that right, Brent?
Prop L funded buildings and funded services and funded the whole.
Well,
It was a permanent, I mean,
10-year.
the capital plan was,
Looking at your
capital plan was 10 years, what the idea is that we were able to collapse it down into 6 years, and actually getting it down to 6 years saved us many additional costs.
Right.
That if we had done it over 10 years. So we took 10 years and we've done it in 6. So to me, I view that as an achievement and accomplishment to the benefit of the.
I'm just.
But have we saved anything? Because it isn't sounding like we saved anything.
That's the question. Have we really saved any money? Because we spending 130 and our budget was 113. We spent $20 million. So let me finish. Okay. As again, I recommend we table this, especially we have a new CEO coming on. Okay. I think he should be part of this process and part of this decision. And again, the 520, I'm not going to speak for Dunn, but I think we should figure out how to deal with 520. If costs are moving at that rate, there's something else going on. That makes no sense to me. Commodity prices are coming down. I know labor prices are tight.
I'm about to be kicked out, but I want to ask you, why did you lower the levy? Why did you lower the levy? I'm going. I know.
So those are my comments. We have a funding issue, and it's not something I can solve for finance. I can solve tonight.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I just want to ask a question. I didn't know if Susan or you had something to add, or I know that you wrote a letter to us on Friday, but I didn't know if you had something to add that you wanted to share.
As far as what?
I don't know. Just
Can I answered additional questions from Ron and Michelle this morning on this. You guys need to know that most of us on senior admin were not involved in the construction process until Steve retired. So not making excuses, I'm just stating facts. We're learning as you are learning.
I think that struck me as two things hit me. It was like hit by a train. At 54 minutes into the finance committee meeting, it was the first time from my time on the board, I found out that there was a deficit in the budget of $8 million. I think 54 and 58 seconds into it, there was a question from Michelle to Jake and Susan. Is it true that there is a financial hole of this amount? Both in Jake and Susan said, that's a correct statement. So the question is, when did we know about it? So I was in touch with Susan. I said, when did we know about it? When we're $1 million down, or $2 million down, or $3 million down, or now we're $8 million down? That money, Riverside is my branch. I go to Anna. I want Riverside built bad. Where's the money? The money was spent. When did it come to the senior executives? A couple months ago.
So,
Please.
so why?
I'm just saying, executive, in terms of, blame or whatever, that's totally unfair. In terms of being not in the dark, but unknowing, we're all in that boat.
So people knew, why was the dashboard, why did the dashboard not match both? Who's responsible for the dashboard?
Former CEO.
Well, and Jake too. if we want to go through I am trying to find my email that I asked today, just so people are, because the questions I asked were, when did staff know about the discrepancy to the Propel plan? When did they bring it to your attention? Who was in charge of the dashboard placemat that was given to each member, and who was keeping it accurate? And why has the RFQ of the audit for the Proposition L funds not been completed? The answers were June, when Gordon pointed it out, at least for me. For Jake in June, before Steve left, Steve and Jake reviewed everything and both thought we were okay. Steve prepared the attached spreadsheet and sent it to us, senior leadership, on June 17th, 2022. Then there was some about, what the tabs show and all that. But at the end of the day, that was June. We're in December. When I asked who was in charge of the dashboard, Steve and Jake. And why hasn't the RFQ been done? Jake has a draft, as mentioned in the finance committee, but it's been set aside. I mean, at some point, if we're this far over budget, I agree, we need to build these buildings. But we also have a responsibility to the taxpayers to spend their money wisely. Clearly, we haven't done that. And I challenge, I would like someone on the board to tell me that we have, because it's 17 or 13 million or whatever it is over. How can we say we spent that money wisely? And I would love someone to tell me, please, someone explain to me. And for our visitors, I mean, I want to build these buildings too. Absolutely, I do. But how can I sit here and tell you that we've spent your money wisely when we can't even get an accounting of how the money has been spent, and we've asked? So, no, it's not a personal problem. We're all taxpayers here. We're all taxpayers. But I don't know that I can sit here and tell you that we've spent our money wisely if we are this far in the hole. I don't know anybody in their home that could be this far over budget and then just like, hey, can we spend another $8 million?
Can I address the section of it?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, well, he's architect. He's architect. That's fine. I mean, yeah, if you've got something that can help us, as far as I'm concerned, I'm baffled.
Okay, so I'm Brad McKenzie with SAP Design Architects. For those of you that don't know, there's a lot of information that's been shared. As the design team, our goal is to monitor construction costs. There's a lot of other budget numbers that I can't speak to. Don't pretend to know what they are, but I can speak to construction costs. Work package 1 budget was just over $6 million, came in at $5.6 million. Work package 2 was $5.6 million, came in at $5.7 million. Work package 3 was $5.8 million, came in at $5.8 million. Work package 4 was $5.9 million, came in at $6.1 million. Work package 5 was Red Bridge. The scope of that project was approved to be expanded by the board. The original budget was $600,000. It was just under $2.2 million. Work package 6, the budget was $2.6 million. It came in at $2.873. Work package 7 was just under 5. It came in at 4.4. Work package 8 was just over $6 million. It came in at 6.6. That one was a bit over. And then we added scope for the site work. That was another $580,000. Work package 9 was originally budgeted at $5 million. That was Drain Valley. This is when all the escalation happened, and we were approved to go forward with that. That one came in at 6.5. Coleman Road work package 10 was originally budgeted at $2.2 million, came in at $9.4 million. Work package 11, a bunch of renovations, was originally budgeted at just under 4.2. That's the one that the scope was changed drastically for Blue Ridge to add the elevator, and for Grandview, that was a major addition. So that scope was increased by a couple $1 million, came in at 7.8. Let's see, North Oak was originally budgeted at 5.6, came in at 6.8, but again, we didn't spend money on property. So that was $750,000 that we saved on that one, and there's other cost savings from land. East Independence was originally budgeted at 6.4. We're talking today about approving it at 6.5. Green Hills, the one that just opened up, was budgeted at 10.6, came in at 11.3. But if you all recall, that added a complete culinary center, which was several $100,000 for all that kitchen equipment that was approved. And then Lee Summit was originally budgeted at 3.76. I take full credit for that budget being off. We had a spreadsheet and it missed $1.7 million for an addition in the original spreadsheet budget. So we were off. That would have actually come in slightly under budget of $5.3 million. By my calculations, our original construction cost budget, including built-in contingency that we had discussed from day one, was right at $89 million. Right now, including $700,000 for construction costs for Riverside, we're at $93.74 million, which is less than $5 million over budget construction costs, with the increase $8 million of change scope and $700,000 for Riverside. So I just want to get up here and there's, questions about, do the architects need to go back and do their homework? I feel like we've done that. We have worked diligently to spend taxpayer money properly. I know Jay Dunn has done it so as well. We talk with Jake weekly about controlling costs. And we are in unprecedented times right now. Things have gotten crazy with construction costs, but we're still really darn close with the over $8 million in increased scope that we've had to deal with throughout this project and being less than $5 million over construction. So just wanted to throw that out there.
So can you talk about your own fees?
Sure.
Original budget versus how do you get paid, first of all?
Our fee is a percentage base and we donate a portion of it back.
Okay. So what does that mean? What's my net cost?
8.7% of construction costs.
Okay. So how much have you, what the original budget for architect on this project was?
So it's gone up by 8.7% of less than $5 million. That's what our fee is gone up.
Well, for over budget, where you're getting 8.7% of the excess.
Which is just under $5 million, correct? Yeah, $4,826,940. But that's
different numbers, but that's okay. So
okay.
Okay, so that doesn't, I mean, I understand what you're saying. That still doesn't create $13 million out of thin air. Okay.
Yeah, and I have no idea where that comes in because, like I said, the budget, the total project budget was 114, and there's a lot of other costs that come into play there. That again, Steve and Jake and staff and everybody take care of, and I can't speak to all that stuff. That's not something that we control.
No, I'm not suggesting you should be charged furniture.
And we have actually helped with furniture, but yes.
So the question now is, we're sitting here with East Independence of whatever it is, 6.5 million, that in the original plan was supposed to be under 6 million. So what happened on the design phase that took us in excess of what we originally planned on spending just 6 months ago? Because that was the number that was put on the table 6 months ago, was $6 million.
Yeah, I believe it was 6.
So, and by the way, the same thing, and we'll get to Riverside is not an issue tonight, but
right.
The number that's on Riverside at this point is almost $6.8 million.
Correct. Okay, so
it started off at 3.5 million 6 months ago. It's doubled.
So East Independence, I can speak to that. Our original budget was 6.2 and we're at 6.5. So we are over a little bit. Part of that cost is because of additional electrical work that is required. And then there was also a savings of land acquisition, didn't have to purchase land. So
we're talking about construction costs.
Okay, so construction costs went up by about $300,000. Again, escalation it's a looking glass. We can't guarantee what escalation.
It's based on your design too. correct?
It is based on our design. That's correct.
So I think that's the question. What happens to the design? How do you engineer this back down below 6 million?
We could cut scope. We could build a simple square rectangular box like some of the libraries used to have. The board has urged us on many occasions as the building committee that we don't want to go back to the types of libraries that we've been replacing. We want libraries that are welcoming and inviting. The library isn't just a place for books. I saw that your chart about, you know, the number of books checked out and the number of materials checked out is decreasing. Libraries are providing a lot more services than that these days. You notice Colburn Road had a huge tick because the services that it provides are stuff that the community needs desperately. So the library building itself, the facility has changed from just a place for books that it has a lot of other services. Part of the design is providing space for those services. We have tried very, very diligently to maximize the efficiency of the design, working with J.E. Dunn, changing parapet heights, changing materials, getting rid of materials that have gone up in costs. We're having debates on a weekly basis with J.E. Dunn about what does this material cost? What's the better material to use? How can we save money here? We're doing that on Riverside right now, trying to get that cost down as close to $6.2 million as we can. Right now it's tough, but if you look at pre-escalation, we're under budget. It's these last few things where things have just gone crazy, and we're construction costs budget.
So who's in charge of construction? Tell me that.
J.E. Dunn.
Who oversees the construction process?
So Jim Coulter is the primary project manager.
Is it J.E. Dunn, or is it Jake, or is it you? Or is it all three of you?
Well, J.E. Dunn is responsible for construction. We're the owner's rep, so we oversee the process, but we're not responsible for keeping track.
So you're not on site inspecting?
No.
Make sure it's done according to plans.
Architects do not do inspections. We do observations, and because we can't be there all the time and see everything that's done. So we can't do that.
So J.A. Dunn has to be self-policing?
To a certain degree, that is correct.
So if things are changed, they just make changes, they get approvals, you have to approve things?
If they request a change, it has to go through the process of submitting a request to us, and we approve it through the owner.
Okay. Does that have additional cost, or is that in the GMP?
If they're wanting to make a change, there's no additional costs in the GMP. That's correct.
So are there in this 100 pages of detail that we received, how much of the current costs or change orders or overspent?
The only change orders that we've had has been for unexpected items, like at Green Hills, we ran into a bunch of rock that added like $380,000. I don't have that number in front of me. It added an extensive amount of cost, and there was no way to foresee that. We even had geotech reports done, and when they drilled down, they didn't meet resistance, which means that the stuff they were going through could be excavated. Turns out it was solid mass rock, and it had to be jackhammered out, and it cost a lot of extra money. But most of the projects have actually ended up with a credit less than the GMP.
Okay, so at this point, and not to pick on you.
That's okay. That's why I stood up.
You paid $8.9 million. I have another $521,000, so you will receive about $9.4 million for this project.
That's
correct?
That's very possible, yes.
Okay, so I have a request.
Okay.
How about between you and Dunn, you donate $500,000 to this project?
We have already been donating money.
No, on this project. Cut your fees in this project and get us down to 6 million. Approve it. I'm sorry.
I feel like
This is open discussion.
No, it's okay.
Engaging in a negotiation here.
It's
Why not?
And that in some senses, if we want to have this conversation, it's probably maybe a proper topic to have, but not in this, not in this time and not in this place. I'm not sure that he's authorized to negotiate on behalf of Don, who is not here.
That's correct.
And or his
are his employer.
And it's not only my decision to make and what we donate, but we
And so-
have donated quite a bit to the project.
And so to the degree that we felt that we've been told something that hasn't proven through, any representation that he would make would not be binding and not be valid. So.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, I'll leave the question on the table.
On the other hand, I appreciate you explaining things to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, wait, I
Thank
have a
All
question
the
for
funding
you.
units.
that Laymen don't know anything.
Okay.
Question. Okay, so if costs have gone up in part because of inflation, what is the benefit, or is there a benefit to waiting?
No, it'll just go up. So if you look at, we actually got some numbers from J.E. Dunn, who's a major construction company. Generally, inflation is about 3% per year. That's just a given. So if you delay, the costs may go up less over time, but they're going to still continue to go up. The chances of costs actually going down are.
So help me understand, if that's the annual inflation, why do I have a 5% premium then?
Well, because that's
Being held to-
typical. That's
Well, but you're saying it's 3%. So if I'm saying, and this is me talking, I want 30 days to get the CEO on board. I want 30 days thereafter to figure out what we're going to do.
So you're wanting to hold the bid.
I want to hold the
Okay,
bids. You hold the bids for 90 days.
We
and-
can't though. So, and here's why. So this is where, okay,
Sure you can. Dave, come on. Dave.
okay, so it would be nice if they could do that. But so they bid out 3 steel contractors, 3 concrete contractors, 3 MEP. They bid out at least 3 of 20 some odd trades. It's a lot of people that provide bids. Look through the bids, pick the most qualified and best price for the project. Those bidders will only hold their bids for a certain amount of time, and then they walk away.
Yep.
So what would happen is there are actually some contracts that they've actually already pushed to say, hey, can we get until the 17th? What would happen then is J.E. Dunn would have to go through that entire process again, and they're not going to do that for free because they didn't do anything wrong or malicious. It's the state we're in. So it would cost you more to have them rebid it. And then it would cost you more because when you delay, the costs are going to go up. So delaying will not save any money. It's not going to. The only way we could cut costs is if we cut scope. Or like I said, if we went back to a building that was designed more like some of the older projects where it was just a rectangular brick box with a couple of punched openings and lay-in ceilings. Which I don't think any of the community want to do that. I don't think any of the board wants to do that. And if you look at the costs of the buildings that we have been doing and compare them to other libraries that have been done at the same time in the community, you guys are actually have been getting a pretty good deal. Cost per square foot has been less than what a lot of other libraries are being built for at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Chair. I have a question. For comments.
Yes. Comments?
Oh, I still have some. Okay. So you knew in June that this $8 million was off?
No.
No.
In June, when I went over the numbers with my boss, the director, we thought that we were in the right spot, that there weren't any other, there was no issues with that. In fact, as I'm looking forward to it, there is some quantitative difference between the numbers that Gordon was talking to and the numbers that I have. And of course, that's a gentleman's argument, whatever you want to go forward with. But when we look at the $113.2 million, and then we compare it to just the capital plan, not Riverside, okay? It's 120 million total, which gives us about a $7.2 million difference. When I look at that $7.2 million, what that looks like to me is I think there's some accounting, we're getting full credit for a lot of our land acquisition deals that we've gotten. I know that there's of course the escalation of about 1.8 million roughly between the 2 new projects, which would be Green Valley and Independence. And then you also got some other small things. I could bring you up an example. The elevator for Blue Ridge as an example was $230,000 that was not supposed to be from capital. It was an operating budget, and the board approved that. And so there's several other items as well. So when you look at that, we're not actually 16 million to the bad. I'm not sure where the 16 million cost comes from. I know there's eight, and then there's 3. To me, that makes 11, although that 3 just got taken out. We've been using that number for the last, I don't know how long. And so that's.
With all due respect, I'm using your numbers. There is no disagreement. One of the problems we have had is that you're using data that is coming from somewhere. And Quan has the bills that have been paid. And not until the last 2 or 3 weeks have those been synced together. Okay, so you may be looking at something, and at this point, as I said, we don't even have a complete analysis according to what the board requested. So the numbers you have that you put together are $130 million of actual plus projected spending. The funding, again, these are your numbers, is 100, and I take out the ticks, is 116.9. Well, that's a $13 million overage. So there is no gentleman's disagreement on the numbers. These are your numbers.
But the other thing is when you look at that, you still do have to compare that the 113.2. I think some of it's accounting. I think some of it's the way it was coded. I'm not sure. I am taking the data as it was presented in the system. I have taken the actual report from that he provided, and those are the numbers that I'm telling you. And yes, when you look at that 130 million, you're talking numbers better than I am. You do a pretty good job of it. I mean,
well, again, I'm trying to get the board needs to understand where we are, and the numbers on the Quan, are these numbers tied back to your GL?
Yes, the total expenditures, yes.
So the 103 is in the GL as of 11/30.
Yes.
Okay, so that means the 26 is your estimate of these other costs.
That 26 includes Riverside. And
I get that. So, but I'm just saying we have a spending program that now requires 130 million, and we have 107, I'm going to call it 117 million of available resources, absent anything else. Okay, the board didn't know that. The board was told we were on plan. The dashboard was consistently showed we were on budget. We had adequate funds. I have email after email over the last 9 months that we have adequate funding, that we don't need a maintenance reserve right now, that I don't have major maintenance expenses until 5 years. And I'm getting, and here we are. I'm just saying we have a funding issue that has to be resolved, and I don't have the answer tonight.
I believe that 6 million from the dashboard that you referenced was in fact addressed in June.
Yeah, because I identified it.
No, I mean, it was actually addressed as to where the totals came from. 6 million.
I don't have any communication from anyone saying that the dashboard is accurate.
It's in the board docs for the meeting. That's where I got it from.
For which meeting? For the building meeting?
No, the June 21st, 2022 board meeting.
Right. Well, we're in the weeds. Okay, so the number I have here, this is in the board meeting. Okay, and it shows that we should have had the projected capital fund balance at the end of 23 would be right at $9 million. The end of 24 would be 3.7 million.
That is what it showed.
11 million.
All right.
Can I just back to the big picture that we need? The big picture is that we need to vote on the East Independence, right? Tonight, is that on the table? So we need to vote on that, but it's like almost like we have two separate things. We still need to understand why our accounting is so off that it's either $9 or $13 million off. We have to address maybe both of those. They're somewhat related in that some people may want to wait on the East Independence. Not that I don't think anyone wants to do away with East Independence. I think it's just a matter of when. When can we do it? Can we do it right now to save money, or do we do it in the future? So we have a few things to. I mean, I just think we need to just keep these big pictures in mind.
So let me just say, from what you're saying, in corporate America, they have promised to give us this price right now. they're saying that in 1 month, it's gonna increase 130,000. Whereas if we lock in the price today, we're still gonna build it. We can still do negotiations, as far as I know, Brent, if we do something and the new CEO comes in, they can make adjustments, correct, after a month? Or are we locked in 100% to this and there's no changes that can be made?
It does not preclude, it sets an upper limit. There have been several projects that have come in less than guaranteed maximum price. So if the desire is, can you go in and save strive for additional sort of savings, that's a conversation that can be held that's sort of appropriate. I want to make two quick comments. One, I believe in markets, and you don't know what the market's going to tell you till you go to the market. So when you say, well, the budget here says it's only going to be $6 million, and then you go to the market and the market tells you something else, that in some senses the market is sending you a signal is that the costs aren't what it is at your cost. Doesn't everybody in the room want to pay what they used to pay for milk? And your family budget has milk in it a certain amount, and then we're gonna, this is historic hyperinflation. And I just cannot say that enough. And you either believe that you can recover, and we're so smart and we can find our way to a different outcome than anybody else that is having to deal with hyperinflation. I believe that we've endeavored to do the best that we can. And one of the things, and actually I'm interested in hearing from other board members other than myself and those who have spoken, because I think it's important to hear from everybody on this. I also want to point out, this is in our staff memo. We act like we're broke, but we have reserves that are 55% of what it is that our this is 32 million. Our policy says our reserves can be anywhere from 20 to 50%. So the staff is recommending is that we top up the building capital account by reducing reserves to 40%, which is a manageable thing that we can do. And that would make $6 million available to fund some of these things that we're sort of talking about. So we want to talk about how it is that we are overspending here, but nobody wants to talk about how we're overaccumulating over here. And so, and that's overaccumulating even in light of the voluntary reduction that was approved. So understand clearly, if we're tight on cash, some of this is created by decisions that we have made and decisions that we will adhere to. And as I said in my comment, it's not a problem to be accepted, it's a problem to be solved.
So anyone else? Joycelyn, would you?
Bob has been waiting to speak.
Bob?
Just as everybody knows up here, I have been on the board a grand total of about 30 days. And I didn't bother to check past voting records and so forth about what my now new colleagues did or did not do. And it wasn't my concern to get the back records. Now, what I have questions about, though, is if I do want to talk about what the staff has proposed. So one of the questions I have is, I certainly appreciate the architect's presentation, and I guess I don't know why the board in the past hasn't tracked these projects and talk about overcosts today. I don't know if it was talked about 2 years ago or not, or 3 years ago, or whenever these projects. Well, I don't know why it wasn't looked at as closely as this project's being looked at. I know we had the property tax rollback, and I know what I gained out of that, which wasn't much. But do we know about the top 10 property owners, what type of savings they received in the property tax revenues? Anybody know those? I mean, I know the top 10 of who they are, but do we know what they received? Reduction.
In the moment, no.
And then one of the things that, and then I want to get to the staff suggestion. One of the things that has concerned me is, I know I've had some history with the legislature, and frankly, when here in the last 10 years, the electorate has adopted issues, the legislature doesn't seem to like them, so they we'll change or redraft if it's an amendment to the Constitution and bring back something else. And I am one of those that has grown tired of that, and I really want to listen to the public. I was involved in 2016, police solidarity. So I know we promised the people in 2016, and I think we need to do something about it. And now with this presentation of, we didn't look at some of the expenditures in the past few years. I don't really want to wait on this, but I do want to talk about, though, options in addressing liquidity. So I know what we've been given. So if all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items are addressed, what type of revenue increases could there be available for capital purposes?
Which ones are you talking
Oh,
about?
okay, yeah, I don't know what you, because I get
Those were my bullet points. Those were my suggestions.
I don't know when that came, but that's
Are these the,
probably similar to the.
well, I have it here, just hold on. Are these the ones where we sell investments? Is that one of the options on there?
You just hand it to him, Bob.
I think so. I think so. I
That's
don't know about that
option.
one. My concern is these budgets, though, that, 55% is a pretty high percentage of balances. I think 40% is certainly legitimate. And I think there is another one also of a transfer from unassigned fund balance, or is that? From Friday.
But can I go back to, while you're doing that, can I go back to this schedule? Are you saying that on a month-to-month basis, there's $130,000? I'm confused. What is the at-risk amount on a month-to-month basis?
This is page 16 of the document.
Yes.
And so page 16 is the upper, is a graph that was provided by J.E. Dunn. I just took the numbers in the graph and I put it in a table. It's not a month by month. It basically says this is the escalation for my quarter.
Okay. So they're saying that if we delay the decision by 3 months, for 2 months, we're at risk for 260,000, am I right?
It's a forecast, right? We don't know what the market's gonna bear. We're saying, we think it might be 2% next quarter.
This is Jim Holter with J.E. Dunn.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
He's online.
Okay.
He would have the industry answer.
Well, I guess I'm coming back to what is the at-risk amount if we, again, I have a new CEO coming in 30 days. We have to solve this funding issue. So my question for you, the SVH and J.E. Dunn, is can we delay this decision for 30 to maybe 60 days till we get this addressed? And what's my at-risk amount? I mean, because again, I'm not suggesting that we not have a branch, okay? The concern is, I don't know, we're in the hole, okay? We have to come up with the funds and we can do some things to transfer money out. That creates a hole in the general fund side that we didn't plan on having, and creates some other issues as well. So that's my question for Don is, can that be done?
I can't give you an exact amount. I can tell you that the bids were good for 45 days. We're coming up on those 45 days. So I would have to go out to each parent low and see how long they'd be willing to hold their price. I've already got some of our parent lows asking for more money if it goes past the 45 days. So it's a case by case basis. And you'd have to tell me, is it 30, 60, 90 days? And you'll have to put a little bit of work in to go and see who's willing to hold and who's not.
So I guess so we're already on the second period.
The bids were good for 45 days in that time frame. I think I told Jake, I think that was December 14th. I heard somebody else say good till Saturday. And then Gordon, we have a forecasted escalation of 2% per quarter. I will tell you that there are some annual price increases after the first of the year. That was one of the things we were trying to be pretty strategic about East Independence, is to try to hit before January 1st.
No, I was not. Thank you. I wanted to then ask you, someone, I now have what was sent to us Friday. So we're talking about a one-time transfer of 8 million from the operating fund to the capital funds. Estimated revenues were about 2 million over and above what was originally anticipated. I assume that's from incentives that are expiring in the district and coming on board. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So all incentives are primarily TIF or is that, do we know?
It's a variety of abatements
Right.
in construction.
Yeah, abatements. Yeah, those create a lot of great jobs. So, and I will tell you, I'm bothered by, I know what we kind of came to consensus on our Thursday meeting, and here it is. And I'm talking to everybody about this. Over a weekend, we now have a deficit that's even larger. Point being is I'm willing to at least talk about some of the options that staff gave us in the proposal Friday. And there is no question in my mind, having built houses for a while, that there is no way you can produce, if you can get an estimate for 60 days or more. Of course, these are all collectively bargained. I assume every craft involved is organized. Is that correct?
No, they're not all organized. All I can tell you is
Commercial projects that are not unionized, really?
yeah, all they have to do is pay the prevailing wage. There's union and non-union.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Only thing I can tell you is it's never been harder to buy construction and hold prices more than it is today.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Trending better a little bit, but it's still not perfect.
Well, and I don't want to wait because I think it's going to be more expensive. And we do have some alternatives for moving money from our general revenue to, well, our operating revenue to our capital funds. And I'd like to go forward with that. So it's really all I have right now.
I'd like to speak.
Recognize Joyce.
Thank you so much. One thing to keep in mind, the 113 million, 114 million that was talked about was looked at very seriously, but we have to remember that those numbers are at least 6 years old. We've changed scope, things have moved around, but we're guaranteed with our guaranteed maximum prices not to exceed the guaranteed maximum price that is agreed upon. And I haven't had a chance to look at your data, but I would be interested, I'm not asking for it right now, but I would be interested in knowing what is included in that. Are you including furniture or other things that will come out of other operating pockets? Because every step of the way since this is done, our architects, our construction people have informed us of what it was going to cost, and those costs have been made steady. Decisions for changes in scope has been made along the way. So to say that we haven't looked at it, I find that an interesting argument. I think what is before us is an even bigger issue, and that is we have a branch that has been promised to the voters in Independence. It's a new area of service in an area that's growing. We need to look at our library branches as being also accessible. Yeah, it may be close, but can a person walk there? Can they bike there? Can they take a bus there? And for this branch, that would be very, very difficult to do, crossing a lot of dangerous roads, where having this branch there, it increases accessibility and usability for the branches. Also, I can answer to you what's happening at Coburn Road. New services bring new people. The people there love their libraries. If we look at these trends, you can't discount at all the pandemic. And the pandemic has impacted us all. And a lot of our branches during that time were closed for renovations, or closed period for the pandemic. So looking at trends right now, I don't feel it is as helpful. All I know is I've gone to every single one of the 32 openings. And when I've gone, those branches have been busy. Each room, each part of it has been used. I think it's important for us to keep our promises. I was one of the original people that went around and told people, if you build it, this is what you would get. And I think, my point of view, it is important for us to keep our promises. As far as Riverside, we've been working with Riverside for about, what, 10 years now?
2011.
Yeah, 11 years.
Yeah.
Trying to get this project on the map because, and I also want to say these last two projects aren't the last two because they aren't important. They were the last two because we wanted to get them right. And Riverside is a perfect example of that. And I think I'm not from Platte County. I'm not from Clay County. I'm from Jackson County, but I 100% support Riverside and that community and getting what we promised. And for me, that is a big issue. That is the big elephant in the room. What did we promise and are we going to deliver? Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
I just want, can I?
Yep.
Three of these options on here are not really options.
And I prefer to acknowledge them. I just put some things down there because frankly, I didn't think that we were addressing how it is when we might solve the problem that we had. So staff may have presented us in their memo some options and ideas. There may be other options, ideas. So don't go against,
Well,
vote no for reasons, but don't no vote.
I just
have bad things.
I just want to be on the record that selling investments at a loss is not an option. Okay, that is that's throwing away taxpayer dollars that we don't have to. Secure line of credit. I don't know that we can borrow money without a vote approval. That would take some doing. And slow paying our project vendors means that we're going to slow pay the subs who have to pay their people who we expect them to pay their taxes on time. I don't think any of those would make a great headline in the newspaper.
So let's say those are three bad ideas. I'm here
Yeah,
to tell you what the staff gave us is a real legitimate answer. So.
So, Dr. Pandolf.
Just wondered if maybe before we vote on it, if we could go around and just maybe each board member just take a minute to say their thoughts. Would that be possible?
Minute and what?
To just say their thoughts on, what they think we should do. Should we just go ahead and lock in the price? Or maybe some people want to think that we should wait and do it later and I don't know. Maybe some people think we shouldn't do it at all. I don't think that anybody thinks that. And then I just want to hear everyone's thoughts. In 30 seconds even.
Well, it might be more productive if we boil it down to maybe two things. If I could, and I'm going to throw these out in Ron's absence, but as we've gone around and we've heard everything going on, we have two situations. We have East Independence, and we have a problem that Gordon has addressed very adequately. I don't understand it all, but I know it's an issue. And so that has to be addressed regardless of East Independence.
Right.
And so I see it as we have two issues on the table right now. Of those things. So a vote on East Independence and also another, I don't know whether it would be another vote on Gordon's.
We can't vote on that because it's not on the agenda. It's not on the agenda.
So you can't vote on it.
Okay.
No, there's no.
All right. So I mean, but that has to be addressed. And
somewhere down the road.
Absolutely.
Well, we're 13 million over budget. You can't. It's.
I appreciate all the time.
In the room. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate all the time.
Bad news, but we're 13 million over budget.
Yes.
I guess obviously I want to build these branches. I'm just gonna put it out there that I'm gonna demand that we need to do an audit.
Yes.
Whether we call the state auditor, whether we do, I don't understand why the RFQ hasn't been done. I don't understand. I'm and frankly, I think it's disrespectful and I think it's insubordinate that it hasn't been done. I don't think it would take that long. And I think we owe it to the taxpayers to prove how the money's been spent. And if staff won't do it when we've asked, when we voted for it, then I say that we call the state auditor and we ask them to audit us, because at a certain point we have to do something. So I don't know how we go about that, but I do know that I've spoken with one of my commissioners, and I mean, we can't have numbers like this. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, clearly everybody else seems, or not everybody else, but there's other people that seem to be okay with that. Because it seems to me like several people are okay with the fact that we're this far over budget. And I mean, Joycelyn, yes, we were given numbers, they were wrong. They were wrong. I mean, clearly we're over budget, and what we were given in those meetings, I was in them too, like they never said that. They never said we were that far over. So how you can sit there and say like we weren't, they were clearly wrong. So that's frustrating to me that like people don't see a problem with that. Obviously we need to do these projects, but how can we be this far over budget? And I mean, I just, it's maddening to me. So now we're just gonna go, yes, we promised it. Does it have to be right now? I don't know. I'm back and forth on all of this. But I guess we just need to spend more money. And we're already in a hole. Spend more money. I mean, so
I would argue that we're not in a hole. The money is there. We just need to.
But where did it go? If we're not in a hole.
That is up for argument too. I don't know what's in this spreadsheet. All I know is every branch during, I'm sorry, I should have asked.
And I'm not gonna.
But if I may.
Susan and Jake actually said that number was accurate the other day.
Can we be kind?
Yes.
Can we be kind?
But what I'm saying is in the meeting the other day, Joycelyn, I'm just telling you, I asked and they actually both said that number was accurate.
I was referring to Riverside. The 8 million that you're asking about and that you asked about was in fact referring to Riverside, and that was accurate.
The thing is, nobody, if I may finish, nobody is not looking at the numbers. We have had a guaranteed maximum price for every single project, and that's what we have. Now, what's in those charts, what's in there and what's not, it could be furniture that's not in the plan. There is a lot of things that are construction costs that may or may not be part of the construction budget. So I would hate to delay a project costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars more because we can't match those up today. But I have confidence that we will build the guaranteed maximum prices. That for me is enough for now.
Okay, go ahead, David. The numbers that are in here are coming off the general ledger, are they not?
Yes.
So they
$103 million.
$103 million.
Yes.
Part of that has been audited, okay? And I'm not going to give the audit because the auditors don't double check every invoice. They look at, they look at a sample and they're done, okay? Jake, with all due respect, this is your schedule, okay? I didn't create any of these numbers. I didn't create the dashboard. I'm taking the numbers that were given to me by you and apparently the former CEO or whoever put them together, okay? So all I've done is to present them in the way you presented them. And we're at 130 million, take out Riverside, fine, okay? I'm still way over budget. And I think Michelle's point is the board, somebody didn't bother to tell the board.
Well,
And Huh?
This just wasn't accurate.
It's a fabric that,
They
no,
did
I'm
tell
sorry.
us. They did tell us.
I've been doing this for 40 years. I did audits for 8 years. I have never had somebody intentionally put a number in as a total that wasn't the actual number. This is the first time in my experience, okay? I've been doing this a long time, okay? And I will tell you, I sat there for an hour adding the numbers. I was shocked. And if you're not upset, you should be. Taxpayers should be upset that we're sitting here having this discussion, okay? Because it's their money and you want this promises, you have a funding problem, okay? And it's easy to take it out of the general fund, which is what the historical practice is. The practice was, let's go back to the budgeting practice. We take in the total revenue and we put it in the operating budget. Absent the debt payment, everything goes into the operating budget. There was no set aside for building maintenance. That was always an afterthought at the end of the year. Well, the reality is of operating, if you put all of your revenues into the operating side, you can't spend all the budget, okay? Because you won't have any money for maintenance. And that's why you ended up with Prop L, okay? So you went for years and years and years without an appropriate allocation for the fixed assets. This should have been addressed more than 6 years ago, okay? And it wasn't. So that's where we are. I don't want to get here again, okay? If you're going to spend $6.5 million, you have to have a plan. This board, this organization has to have a plan. It has to have a financial projection, as I said, that is more than what, and this will sound critical, okay? But this is an elementary projection. This thing warrants something that probably takes about 80 to 100 hours to build. And then you have a tool you can use to plan and manage from. We don't have that. And when you put a facility up there, you have future maintenance costs. That becomes a burden on the taxpayers. Okay, we have to take that into effect. You put operating expenses out there of $1.5 million, you have future cost increases. That has to be taken into effect. Okay, you have a revenue side that's based on interest rates and valuations that can be a total disconnect from the side of inflation, because your inflation is already starting to hit you. And if you get out over your skis, you won't have enough revenue. I don't care what your levy rate is. We have to get our arms around this thing. And saying the numbers don't match up, with all due respect, Joycelyn, I have studied this. I've studied this I can't tell you how many hours I have into this organization in the last 9 months. Okay, the numbers are accurate. Yes, Lauren.
Could I just ask a question of you, sir?
Yes.
Sorry to pull you into this again.
Oh, it's fine.
So
That's why I'm
you
here.
gave a lot of numbers fast and I was gonna write them down, but I couldn't.
Okay.
At the bottom of your list of numbers that you had, what number do you show that you're different?
$4.8 million. That's including the construction costs and the contingency that we had budgeted from the beginning.
Okay, and that is through which branch? Does that include the last two or that?
That includes the 700,000 for Riverside.
The 700,000 for Riverside and then
I'm sorry, that includes 7 million for Riverside.
7 million for Riverside.
And again, I'm talking just construction costs. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into the Prop L $114 million budget besides just the construction costs. I'm speaking just to the.
But you were like,
So
I mean, I know some of them we voted on, like, I know we voted for changes for some of those, like we added this and we added this.
Correct.
But like, when you were saying like, this one was over, this one was under, what's the grand total, like excluding the last two libraries? Is that the 4.8 that you're saying, or is that?
The 4.8 was all of the projects GMPs to date, including East Independence, plus $7 million for Riverside. And that put us at just under $9.5 million. I'm sorry, $95 million. Yes.
you said the project contingency, you included that. So you took 100% of the project contingency as part of the construction budget.
It was construction contingency.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
So the 5.227 is equivalent to $104 million. So 5% of the 84 would not have been 5.227. So if you're allocating that contingency, to me appeared to be just an overall contingency that would cover everything, including fees and furniture and IT equipment.
When we go back and look at the original budget,
I'm coming in on the back end.
Right. when I went back and looked at the original budget that we had put together, there were several different line items. One of them was construction contingency. One of the things we talked about early on is we would hate to tell the taxpayers that we had $2 million that we could have spent on buildings that we didn't. So we've been trying to budget spending all of it. And then again, there was about $8 million worth of added scope that the board voted on. And we don't exceed the budget, the construction budget, by that much.
Lawyers.
And I'm happy to send you the spreadsheet. And again, I'm looking just strictly at the construction costs. I'm happy to share that with you.
So I just want to add something from my little time on the building committee, and Brett, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think his numbers take into account though, like the money we saved other places, does it?
In my comments, I said that we saved money on land. We had some projects that came, in some cases, we used that and applied that to particular sort of projects. So, I could give you a couple of.
So this 5 million about that he's saying would actually be a lot, I'm thinking by what I heard, on the building committee, I think that would actually be a lot less. I mean, it'd be a lot because we saved a lot of money in other places. Is that your numbers aren't?
So sure, you're playing the shell game.
No, I just want to know.
I know, but
so here's
so on here the schedule, not to interrupt you. And I think we just need to figure too. We have furniture, technology, moving and storage. The land is right on budget. The land is 5.4 million. Okay, that's the number in the budget. These cell existing is unfortunately in the original plan, I think counted twice. In this plan, it's counted correctly. Okay. So it doesn't change the numbers where we are. So
right, but it in a sense, it's like we should be actually closer than.
Well, I wish we knew that.
Right.
Okay, because if we had done the accounting all along and if we'd done it, had the information earlier, we would not be having this discussion.
So we have money in the fund. To your point, what you said, we have the money that we
In the Mid-Continent Public Library finances, we have funds that can.
And then if we proceed, then we at some point will have to look at these other suggestions and think if we need more money and just figure out where we're going to get it.
Well, I'm sorry, but we have the money to do what they're asking.
Short answer is yes, we have the money to build the library based on current price. I'm not sure if we have the money to operate the library 2 years from now.
Okay, so if we vote now, we are simply voting on whether we go forward. That still gives us the option to come back at a later date and adjust or make changes or.
Well, if we vote to go forward, we have to go forward.
No, I know that, but we're voting to build. But are we locked into, say, the architectural plans, or can those be changed or modified to lessen costs at a later date?
My understanding is we're voting on
I'm asking you.
guaranteed based on the build that's been presented. That's what we're voting on tonight is what are we accepting the guaranteed maximum price for the build that's been presented by our architects? We can't go in and say build a whole nother building because then that throws everything out. We can look for savings here and there, but they've already looked at savings and reduced the scope to get it down to this. We're now looking at cutting access and services at this point in scope. If you go any further, and I think it's unfair to the programs at the end of our process to be cut short of what we promised.
Sorry. Oh. To Juan's point, I mean, we build it and then we can't have the funds to run it.
Well, okay. In the proposed levy projection we did, okay, we projected general fund surplus. Again, we did this because we were told that we had more than adequate funds in the general fund. So 36 million is the projection to the end of 23. If the board wants to adopt the plan as projected out here, that number turns into 23 million. Okay, if you look at the financial statements through November, and I know Juan, but basically our hold in November is around 23 million dollars, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you basically have to go hand to mouth during the months of October and November of next year. That's what's going to happen. And hope that you don't have a bunch of people not pay their taxes. Our delinquent ratio is pretty consistent, but most people pay their taxes up. So
The crazy thing is if we had this information when we were voting on the levy, then of
I
course,
guess
we
you're
would,
still not kidding.
I'm just saying, why are we just having this information now? And the people who wanted us to take the full levy, it seems like that would have really helped your argument if we would have had this information.
the levy would have sold this. The levy was $1 million. And this is
Okay, well,
13
I'm just saying it still would have been a drop in the bucket,
or 13 million.
but the fact is that we are kept in the dark. And I understand the public's.
Brent? Well, they're in the dark as much as we
Yeah,
are.
I know.
So this is excruciating.
Yeah, it is.
In some ways, and so I want to get that, but I want to hear from each of us whether we're committed to build a branch in East Independence and whether we're committed to build a branch in Riverside. Because I think that's the statement that we want to be making to the public. We can figure out how to do it, when to do it,
Right.
what it is that it looks like. But if the answer here is, well, we're not going to build one of these things, I think I think the public, particularly for people who've sat here and listened to us talk, are we prepared? Well, and others who may be online or others who may be reading about this, I've heard it in kind of passing sort of ways, but I want to hear it in kind of a direct affirmative sort of way. Are we prepared to build East Independence? And are we prepared to build Riverside? My answer to that is yes and yes.
So,
My answer to that is wholeheartedly yes and yes.
Yes, and yes for me.
so as a point of order, can we go take a
vote.
poll
It's a struggle.
around there? Okay, so y'all be willing to do that, and let's take a vote on Brent's question.
Just take the vote.
No,
Why?
it's.
Riverside's not up.
Riverside's not on.
Riverside is not a motion. We don't
No, I
have,
know.
we don't
I'm
have.
asking for,
Can we-
I'm asking for the sense of the word, because I think, the adage is if you have a will, you'll find a way. If there is no will, I'm pretty damn well persuaded we won't find the way. So this is a gauge of the board's willingness to build a new branch in East Independence and build a new branch with the investment that we receive from the city of Riverside. So I'm just wanting a sense of the board. I'm not asking for a formal vote.
Rita, did you?
I think we all have the will to do this. We made a promise, and I think we do want to stand behind our promise that we love libraries or we wouldn't be here, and we want to see them move ahead. On the other hand, when you have a personal budget and you say, I'm going to have to postpone this a little bit because I don't have the funds for it, it doesn't mean I'm dropping the project or that I'm going back on my promise. It means that we have been hit hard with a funding problem. I think we've got to look at our overall promises in light of how can we best fund them. And if we say yes, then we're just going deeper into the hole. And I don't want to dig myself deeper into any hole just because I made a promise. And I don't want to dig the taxpayers deeper into any hole just because we made a promise. So I think we've got to separate the two. We can't say, yes, we'll go ahead and then dig ourselves in deeper.
Well, it might be good just to hear from each one. This is not a vote on East Independence or Riverside. This is just saying our commitment, really, is all we're stating as the board. So
I'll go. I'm sorry. Yes, I am committed to both of them. And I mean, I don't think there's anybody more dedicated to Riverside than me. Dear God, I want that thing done.
I don't know, I might be more.
I don't think that you have not been here. Those of us that have been here longer, you have. We want that thing built.
You've been through all the iterations.
Oh, my, for the love.
Yes.
So have you.
Brent?
No offense to anybody. Is she still here?
No.
Yes, I was like, no
Yes,
offense.
yes. I mean, it should be.
I am yes on our commitment, both Riverside and East Independence. But I think I can't see moving ahead until we get funding in place. No.
Well, I'm a yes on both, is committed to East Independence and Riverside, absolutely.
I also support both East Independence and Riverside.
Yes and yes, as I mentioned before.
I've stated my concerns. I'm not opposed to East Independence. I'm opposed to the way we're doing it. I have no concerns about how we're managing costs. I don't feel like we're managing costs very well. Okay, the numbers say so. We've done a very poor job of managing resources, and if we don't get a hold of that, this is going to get worse. With respect to Riverside, I drive through Riverside a lot. I want the architect to know that if you go south of the branch, there's a highway, a railroad track, and the river. So what you build in Riverside needs to take the topography into account, because you don't have the density of what some of the other branches do. And that's a real concern of mine when I see $8.5 million. By the time it gets done, it's probably going to get higher. And that is a major concern of mine, that we are overbuilding Riverside. We have a contractual obligation, by the way, to do Riverside. Okay, we have a clock ticking, as I understand. Is that correct?
We have a lease.
We have a lease, but
We have a lease that
we
could be-
don't have to do a fire drill in Riverside. Am I correct?
No.
Okay. So those are my concerns. No, I'm in favor of doing Riverside, but do Riverside in the right size and the right way. Okay. A half a mile south of that branch is Kansas.
Okay, yeah, I think totally on board with both of them. My concern is that we have got to figure out why our accounting is so off, and I hope we can do that very, very soon. On the other hand, my concern is that I don't want to lose that locked in price either. And so I don't know, I feel like, which way do we go? We don't want to lose this locked in price. But, we have such a problem on the other, so that's where I think the big problem is, that we've got to have the wisdom to figure out in a few minutes.
I am definitely a yes and yes, but I do want to just add, holding off. You say you're concerned about taxpayer money, and we have a locked in price. And if we hold off and they rebid the way that inflation's going, if it came back, if it's 6.5 million now, and if they come back and they go to all of these people and they know how much they can demand, it could go up to 8.2, just like that. And the money that we have just cost the taxpayers by delaying that. The reason why we had this special meeting is because they've extended the deadline for us to wait for this meeting. And I believe that we need to proceed. I do believe that we need to have the money somehow figured out what that is. I'm not saying that we avoid that, but I do think we need to proceed with something that we've already committed to.
Oh, well.
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Is
Brent?
it run online?
No.
No.
So can we call for a vote, an official vote?
No.
Is that what we need to
Just
do?
call the question.
Have we made the motion?
We haven't even made it. We need to-
Motion, so, so I will read the motion for East Independence. Approval of a recommendation from the building committee to the full board to accept Work package 13, East Independence for the total guaranteed maximum price of $6,549,810 to be paid from the Capital Projects Fund, and approval authorizing staff to draft a notice to proceed. That is the motion.
And it doesn't need to be seconded, right? Since it came out of.
Yeah,
the.
it would be- we need a motion.
So you made the motion?
Motion it. I didn't make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right. All in favor? Or
I guess it's.
There's any more discussion?
oh, any more
more
discussion? My first time doing this.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Doing great.
For bearing with me.
I have.
Yes.
I read from our staff, and that's why I'm never going to believe Brent's summary of anything anymore. So I did read the leadership team's email to us Friday. I don't think there's anything magical about having a 40% requirement in the operating reserve versus 55. And for our staff, that's a one-time transfer of $8 million. And then I think probably in the following fiscal year, and I'd asked this question earlier about incentives coming on board within the district itself, and that was estimated about 2 million. So I would think that there is, and I'm not suggesting everything that's been presented. I think Gordon's has some excellent points on figures that are valid or invalid. But I do think if we later would adopt some of the two items of leadership suggestion on Friday, we would have roughly 10 million that we can make a decision with. But in so doing, I would certainly support this motion.
Any other questions? Comments?
Roll call.
So,
Yeah, roll call.
do a roll call.
Yeah, ask Teresa to do a roll call.
Okay, so Teresa, do a roll call for the vote.
Okay, Joycelyn,
Yes.
Gordon,
I'm thinking.
okay, Bob,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lori, yes. Dr. Pandolfi.
You can call me.
No.
I don't know.
I'll
Is
come
that
back.
allowed?
No, I'll come back. I'm gonna circle the block. Brent,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Rita,
I'm committed to half of it, but I feel like I've got to abstain tonight.
Michelle,
I'm really torn. I don't want to spend any more taxpayer money, so I'm gonna go with yes.
Gordon,
I'm going to reluctantly vote yes, with the caveat that some things we do in the next 12 months, this board may find very distasteful and the public may find objectionable, okay? We have to get this under control. And to listen to the public, you know, we did not make budget cuts. We increased spending this year by $5 million. That's not a budget cut. We have $23 million built into the funding for operations for a 3-year period. That is not a budget cut. Okay. We have to fund this thing. We have to get our arms around it. We obviously haven't been told the truth here over the last 9 months. I have tried ad nauseum to get information, and I'm sorry. Last week we found out we're 8 million in the hole, and as of today, we're 12 million in the hole. Okay, that's the numbers. And I'm sorry, that's what it is.
Okay.
We do have surplus, but I can tell you in 12 months, you're not gonna like some of the things we say.
Can we complete the vote?
Let's vote.
Yeah, I'm gonna reluctantly say yes to.
So the motion passed.
What was the vote?
It was 9 yays, 1 abstention, and 1 not present at vote, which was wrong. Dr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion for we to adjourn?
No. I'll be quick on finance. Are we done with yours?
Okay, can we go with finance? Okay, I will be short, okay? You have the distribution information, the citizens information, I think that's what that should say. There's a personnel schedule on board docs that Jennifer has been very diligent about preparing. We're not going to go through it. This is
Actually, we will.
pardon me? Oh, you want to go through it?
No.
His report. If anybody has any questions about it, always.
Well,
let me know
this
if you
is
wanna add anything
a work in process. This is all intended to get us prepped for the budget cycle starting next spring. Okay? The facility plan review you have in your hands, obviously it's not complete. I don't know why. The Culinary Center cost recovery update, we had a further discussion on that. I do want to make a specific comment about that one of the numbers, I don't remember which one it was, but Xander made the comment that he got his cost information out of the Landmark newspaper. Okay,
Can we
We
be kind,
had-
it's one question privilege. Can we be kind and
I am.
call staff out individual in public?
I'm stating the facts about the meeting, okay? So we have an accounting department, I suggest we use it. We do have to vote on central bank update. We already talked about that. That is a $30,000 fixed fee. The motion is to accept their updated pricing. It is a flat fee of $30,000 for custody services and investment services. And I make the motion. I'd like a second.
Second.
All right,
Either, you said second at the same time,
it's
so.
been seconded. And so Teresa, would you call a vote?
Yes.
Discussion.
Do you have discussion?
Yes.
For discussion before you. So that.
Sorry, just any discussion?
I'm sorry.
I made a
Second.
second, but someone else did that.
No, that's fine. Again, go. Okay, sorry.
Any discussion? No discussion, we'll move right along. Call the vote. Teresa?
Let's do a general vote on this one. You don't need to roll.
Don't need a.
No, I think, I asked that question earlier about Robert's Rules of Order. It's a roll call vote
Okay.
on these are final.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Brent,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Rita,
Yes.
Dr. Pandolfi,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Noel, Gordon,
Yes.
Joycelyn,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, next item, there's just a couple points. The Corvus disbursement review is in process. They're on the tail end of that. We expect a draft of the report from them sometime in early January. Hopefully, we'll get comments turned around and we'll have them report to us at the February meeting. One item I would like to note that was brought to my attention in the interview that I had with the partner. Apparently, the library has two credit cards, one for 500 with a 500,000 limit and one with a $750,000 limit. I don't know the source of those, when they were approved, anything. I went back to the emails from Quan. We have an insurance dishonesty coverage of 250,000 and the treasurer has a bond of 25,000. I would, I don't want to wait for the report. I think that is a real exposure that I would like management to address like immediately. And by the way, Mr. Treasurer, you're on the hook for that.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I heard you say.
yes, okay. So the last thing is, that we've already talked about the RFQ, so I don't have any other business. That's it.
So new business.
No,
We
personnel
got
committee.
personnel committee. Brian, can you
Oh,
go back, please?
Where's that?
I would waive this except that we put it off for 2 months because meetings are too long.
Oh, there we go.
And if I may, I've asked our lovely HR Liz to go over our personnel update of benefits and other items. Because personnel does make up about 60% of our budget. I don't think it's proper to just gloss over it. So I'd like to take time to do that today. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, y'all, I'm trying to make this fast and exciting. We're gonna talk about health insurance. So first slide, Brian, on the, there we go. There we go.
For health insurance, we use Blue Cross. We use their Cost Plus program, which is a version of self-funded insurance. So we pay Blue Cross admin fees, and we pay Blue Cross for stop loss coverage, so we limit our exposure. And then they bill us for the claims, so we just pay the claims. That means we keep the savings if there are some, instead of paying a whole premium and Blue KC keeping the savings. That program's been in place for about 11 years, and it's worked really well for us over that time in controlling healthcare costs. We marketed the plan for 2023, which means we went out to see if there were other options that would be more cost effective for the library and still offer great benefits for our staff. And we chose to remain with Blue KC for the Cost Plus program for 2023. The next slide, Brian. This is just kind of a brief overview of what happened when we went out to market. We got quotes on what are called ASO, or Administrative Services Only Self-Funded Plans from Blue KC, Humana, and UMR. One of the things that is not beneficial to the library about those type of plans is that it's a weekly cash flow out versus a monthly cash flow out, and for claims, and it makes us accept a greater claims risk liability. And the plan cost projections for the UMR plan were higher. We did get quotes for fully insured plans. So the traditional, we pay a premium, they do everything. From Blue KC, Humana, and Cigna, which limits our liability to the amount of the plan premium, but doesn't allow us to keep any savings if there are some. And part of the thing that makes that not attractive, besides the fact that we would spend down our reserve health fund, is that nobody was offering us a rate guarantee or cap for a second year of premium, which means they could come back with a second year with a 20, 30, 40% premium increase if we wanted to, and then we would be doing this exercise all over again. Next slide, Brian. One of the things that happened during this market is that Blue KC reacted to the market competition. We've had a relationship with them for a long time, and they reacted by offering us a flat renewal for the fees and for a stop loss coverage. So we were due for about a 14% increase to stop loss and a 2.5% increase to admin fees. They came in flat for us for this year, which is super helpful for us in controlling costs. We are enrolling in a premium formulary prescription savings plan to save the plan some dollars this year. And staying with Cost Plus with Blue KC under this plan still allows us to stay within the amount that we budgeted for 22-23. Next slide, Brian. There are some additional considerations. We did review some of Blue KC's narrow network options. So you may be familiar with SpiraCare. You may have seen those clinics around. They're building one in Independence over by Target. That's where you have, that's where you go to the doctor at. You have some specialty access and hospital access, but it has very limited access to hospital coverage in Eastern Jackson County. So it's not really a viable option for our staff at this time. We will likely need to look at plan design and premium rate contribution changes for 2024. We started that conversation with staff in our open enrollment communication in October and November, and we will start our strategic planning for 2024 in January of 2023 to look at ways that we can keep those costs controlled and still offer a good benefits package for our staff. It will require additional funding to the health insurance fund if things run according to what has been projected, because we did budget to spend down the health insurance fund for this particular budget year. Okay, next slide, Brian. We also marketed dental and vision insurance. For dental insurance, our contract was expiring with Cigna. We got quotes from Cigna, Humana, Ameritas, the Standard, and Blue KC. Cigna quoted an increase with only a 1-year rate guarantee. All the other insurance companies offered us at least a 2-year rate guarantee with a decrease over rates, except for Humana. They went with a 2-year rate guarantee with a slight increase to current costs. We found out something interesting. Cigna has changed their network that we use over the course of time that we've been with them, I think for the last 3 years. And now our staff are only using in-network providers for Cigna 65% of the time, which is really low. So next slide, Brian. We elected to go to Blue KC for dental insurance. It'll save us the library about $7,200 a year, which seems like in the grand scheme of we're talking about all these millions of dollars, but $7,200 is $7,200. It is a 3-year rate guarantee. And if all of our staff stay with their current dental providers, we'll go from that 65% in network coverage to 93.6%, will save the plan money, which should help with future renewals in the, that they would come in better in the long run. So, and also save our staff money. That does. Next slide, Brian. Also market the vision plan. We were with Cigna for vision as well. We got quotes from Cigna, Humana, Emeritus, from Casey and VSP. Again, Cigna quoted an increase with only a 1-year rate guarantee. We kind of have a high loss ratio on vision insurance. So it's a little bit above 100%, which means they're paying out more than we're paying them. They don't like that. So they'll always say, hey, you're going to give us a little bit more money. All of the other insurance companies offer at least a 2-year rate guarantee, and all the insurance companies quoted a rate increase over Cigna's previous rate. Next slide, Brian. We elected to go with Blue KC Vision. Part of that is because all the insurance companies that quoted require that dental and vision be bundled together in order to get those rates. So that informs our decision. The cost increase is just $900 year over year from last year, estimated, and then we did get a 2-year rate guarantee from Blue KC Vision. So I think that's it. Is that my last slide? Okay, there we go. Any questions about insurance?
Thank you.
For 2023.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Time and doing that.
Okay, we're gonna talk about this other piece too. Great.
I thought
What's the next slide?
we already
Okay.
did this.
No, it was postponed from October.
This is just an overview. I know we've talked back and forth about the budget and the budget adjustments and decrease. This slide has all of the budget adjustments on it, but the one that's relevant to what we're going to talk about is the top section there with the payroll and benefits, the net reduction of that $1.3 million that we cut. The net reduction to budget for payroll and benefits was $453,560. See if we decreased some lines, increased some lines. We had more information because we were further into the year when we did this, the updated budget for October. So the next slide, I think is there we go. That's the revised budget. I won't, I know that your heads are spinning from numbers at the moment, so I won't go directly into every single number except to note that we did cut, overall, we cut a benefits eligible authorized FTE. So we went from 418.5 to 417.5. Did that by doing some shifting and making some adjustments. We made adjustments to reductions to the benefits pay budget, the benefits eligible pay budget, and the part-time staff budget. Those budgets are still an increase over last year's spend. You can see a significant increase over last year's spend in the part-time budget, and that is coming from the idea that we had a lot of branches closed and our programming was not up and running for that previous fiscal year. So, but there is an increase of spend for salaries and wages of 9.13%. The rest of it is calculation. We did adjust the medical insurance funding, slightly increased it for this budget than we had on the previous one so that we can keep that health insurance fund healthy and within those parameters. And the total budget is for 22-23 is for payroll benefits is $33,955,899, which is an 8.81% increase over spend from last year, but is a $650,000 decrease or $450,000 decrease from the original budget.
Any questions?
Questions?
Okay, thank you for indulging us to present that. I mean, our personnel budget is a good chunk of our budget, and I would hate for us not to have had that treated in the same manner as some of the other ones. So I appreciate you staying late to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. You've been waiting a while.
And we could rearrange.
No, just send it out.
We put her. You haven't gotten to go.
Any new business? All right, other business.
A trustee comments? Can I make a trustee comment? So I got my letter in the mail from Diana Ryder and there, a lot of us probably got the same letter too. And I want to encourage everybody in the audience and watching online that you can make a donation to the library. For those of you that are opposed to the 2-cent tax decrease, I would strongly encourage you to make a donation. It's tax deductible. You can take it off of your taxes and it does go to benefit the libraries. And I don't have, I was gonna bring my envelope with the address on it, so I would have it, but I'm sure Teresa could get it for anybody that needs to have it. So I just wanted to make sure I push that because I think it's a really great opportunity for everyone to donate to the library.
Thank you, Lori. Any other?
No, we may really need it.
All right. Announcements.
Your announcements are in board docs, and it's, we're closed for Christmas, we're closed for New Year's. The next finance committee meeting, or we have a personnel committee meeting, it'll be January 11th. If we have finance, it'll be January 12th. We are closed Martin Luther King Day. The next day after that is board meeting, January 17th, and which is 35 days from now, and that's when Aaron starts.
Okay.
He starts the 17th.
His first official day is the 16th, but we're closed because it's Martin Luther King Day. So yes, the 17th will be his official day in the office.
All right. Any trustees' comments?
Happy holidays.
Yes. Merry Christmas to everyone.
I'd like to thank everyone for voting to keep our promise.
Happy New Year. So appreciative of everyone's time and efforts tonight. Thank you all so much.
I make motion adjourned.
Second.
Okay.
Third.
Aye.
Aye.
Brian, thank you.
I'm gonna turn this off.
Thank you, Brian.